hello. I am late. Also, hi VOD people. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you have water. I actually need to drink some water. I hope you have had some food. If you need to, have your meds. That is part of my problem this morning. I woke up and I'm like, oh, it's Saturday. I need to get work done today. I usually like getting started about 9 o'clock. And it is currently 9:30, and I'll explain why. I started the morning late. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't get working till about 9, so I'll just lay in bed till 8:30. Forgetting that I was gonna stream at 9. And also forgetting my meds, which doesn't help. I got out of bed at 8:30. I was gonna start work at 9. I take my meds, my ADHD meds, and like a placebo effect, the moment I did, I'm like, shit, I'm gonna stream at 9. And then I got everything together bit by bit. I made a quick little thumbnail. I posted this, I posted that, I posted a short for today. I realized I should probably be using the YouTube post feature more, so hopefully we're gonna be using that more often. It's gonna be a fun day. I got everything collected. Today we're gonna be working on the build that is actually gonna be the main focus of tomorrow, Sunday the 18th of January. Tomorrow's video. And I am so excited for it because it is not a small project. It's a decently big project, but it doesn't require an extreme amount of preparation. This is not an underground build. This is being built around the entrance for my mega base, and is probably going to act more as my main base now. And the mega base is going to be more like my industrial district. And hopefully, we're gonna move into this pretty quickly. If I have the time, I'm expecting this to take about 2 hours to build, if that. Because there's no serious complicated bits for me to build. There's a few furniture things that I built here and there, but none of them are annoying or super annoying placements. A few of them are. And we'll have to go back afterwards because we added shelves to the server. And apparently, Lightmatica does not like the way we've added these shelves because it's a backport mod. I did have shelves in the design. I still have shelves in the design, but I had to completely remove them from the schematic. So at the very least, I know we need 8 spruce shelves and 2 oak shelves, which I should probably craft real quick and throw in a backpack. And thankfully, I have just the right amount of materials used for this thing that I put everything in the 6 odd diamond backpacks I have. So, we don't have to deal with any annoying shulkers. I can just keep all the backpacks on me, and then we'll empty them out as we go. And it's not a very complex build. It really isn't. It looks like it is. It's mostly just textured. All in all, this should be pretty quick to get through. And I think because we're doing a building stream, I'll actually get some background music up and going. And there will not be a stream tomorrow. I am busy in the morning. I'm still deciding whether or not I want to stream in the afternoon. I'm thinking not, because I want to get a surprise ready for the beginning of February. I want to post something the very 1st of February, and that requires a bit of work. But hopefully it'll be great once I do. And this playlist, shuffle that. Loop. There we go. And good volume. Yes, yes. Little bit higher. Volume is a great thing to mess around with, especially because my headphones and stream volume are not quite the same. They really are not. But let's get into the gameplay. I think I still have it set to, yep, Plants vs. Zombies from the fun stream we had the other day. I do not save the variety streams unless I want to make it into a video. But if you want to stick around for those, I don't know if I'll do another Plants vs. Zombies stream, but we will see. And here is all of my lovely backpacks. So let's actually place these in the order they need to go. That is not correct. I think that's backwards. Yeah, that's backwards. Okay. And then I want to quickly make, because I should have done this, and my voice is going out. There we go. Little bit better. We need 2 shelves, and I'm just going to grab all of those. I know for a fact we need 2 oak shelves for the doorway, and it's 8 or something for another thing I made. 8? 2 in each corner, so yeah, 8. So I'm gonna throw that in the last backpack. Apparently I can't. Because we're gonna immediately need a bunch of stone to fill in the underneath section connected to the hill. And technically this probably could use a little more prep for me building it. Because I am terraforming a little bit here, that all needs to be removed. But I think we will get to that when we get to that. Oh, I should tell the SMP I'm live. That's kind of cool. That's kind of important. Building on the SMP. There we go. And of course it's nighttime. Let me set this so people do know. There we go. And we sleep through the night. And why is phone going off? Is it because of me? Yes. Manish your live dashboard. I have it. It's on my computer. And I actually got to place the schematic first. That's kind of important. I made it very easy for me to place. So I don't have to think about it too much. I have this little moss carpet here, so I just set it to this. And we'll see if this is going to spoil the entire thing or not. Max layer moved. Oh, it's way down, so it's not going to spoil it at all. Fantastic. Just gonna slowly move that up to like 80. Manor. There we go. Is that literally just the first layer? Oh, that's perfect. Beautiful. Oh, just pure coincidence. Cool. Epic. Oh yeah, I forgot to fill in this very bottom layer with stone. That's fine. You do not have the blocks I need. Where are the blocks I need? They are not in either of these. Where are you? There's a little bit there. Okay, it's these ones. We'll just grab 2 of each because they're pretty evenly spread about. If I can even do that. Do that. Should be perfect. And then 2 of the shingles and 2 of the crystal. And that should be all we need for quite a bit. So I'll grab just a little bit more stone to carry us through. And wow, my voice does not want to cooperate this morning. Jeez. Okay, lovely. Hopefully this needs minimal changes for us to get going. Okay, there is a little bit here that I need to do as well. There we go, okay. And you know what, just for the sake of it, I will time-lapse this. Because I'm thinking about doing, starting to post time-lapses of whatever we're building on the SMP to social medias. To shorts and TikToks and such. I don't have to... No, just that. Okay. No! I just wish to build. Thank you. Okay, yeah, little bit of prep. Hello, welcome! How are you? We're just getting it started in this, so it's perfect timing. I don't expect it'll take too long. Honestly, I think what's gonna take the longest isn't even the foundation of this, because this goes up all the way to about there or so. I'm fine. What you doing? We are building... It's basically going to be a manor. I just wanted something to cover up the entrance to my mega base, because it's just kind of an eyesore here. And my starter base ended up being Japanese themed, so I ended up sticking with that. And there will be a video out on my YouTube tomorrow showing the process of me building through this. Because we started using Axiom recently. It is a Minecraft building mod. And in it, I realized you could actually draw within the game And I've been doing art for quite a bit now, so I used it very much so to my advantage. And did a whole study thing going through the art process for doing builds like this. I probably should have gotten rid of this, but we're gonna just ignore it. And I had so much fun messing with a bunch of different Axiom tools to make this. And I'm hoping to try and start pioneering the technique more, so we'll see how that turns out next time. Because I know the next project I want to do is making the server more force-friendly because of some of the mods we have. Gonna be a giant big entrance. Sort of. It started as I was just gonna make an entrance for it and make a gate around it, but this is gonna be a foundation for a house. A lot of Japanese castles... Those blocks... Oh, yeah, I know why those blocks are there. Okay. A lot of Japanese castles will have like an entrance closer to the foundation, based on... Where's my notes? Let's do this. There's my study. There we go. We're gonna move this around a little bit. There we go. It's gonna end up looking closer to this. So the entrance right here is gonna be like the little entrance in the foundation down here. Yeah. Castles aren't really used for living based off of my research. They were more like a last stronghold sort of thing. So this is kind of more of a Japanese manor than a castle, but it is themed after a castle. Although it is kind of mostly my storage. The first floor I have... Oh, we're out of stone. The first floor, I mostly have my storage set up because right now a lot of my storage is downstairs and I want to turn that to farm storage instead. So we're going to move my storage upstairs to the 4 different rooms I have, which works out because my storage is separated into 4 little quadrants. And I also have a cute little kitchen, a decorative little like bathroom, and a literal toilet bathroom, and then a bathroom. A cute little office because I didn't know what to do with the 4th room downstairs. The second floor has like a cute little meeting room to it. And trying to think of more. The second floor has a meeting room and then an inside garden. Just like a cute little plot. And the top floor only has my room and Axe's room, which is another member on the server, and she's been staying with me. Honestly, never imagined castles use this big house for a person. More like something to show your importance power. That's how Japanese castles were. They were mostly a show of power, but also extremely strategically pointed. Which adds on to this being far more of a manor than a castle. Castles were typically put about strategic points such as ports and rivers and high up on the mountains, so they could be better defended. And often made in a very specific way, so the buildings around it and the courtyards around it would force their enemies to go in a very specific way in order to target them better. And to protect themselves better. It was so cool getting into this research, but was it annoying to get any actually good reference photos of the interior specifically. Thank you. Made it myself. This is my 3rd or 4th time making a model. Where's my other image? There we go. I found this beautiful crosshatch. Probably gonna be super zoomed in. Where it center? It's just gone. Center to screen. There we go. Found a beautiful crosshatch. And this immediately just reminded me of Spirited Away, so I kind of started designing the interior like Spirited Away. And of course I'm out of food. I swear, building in this game makes you eat more food than PvP. Let me just build. There we go. Wonderful. And I'm probably gonna need to get rid of that. It was certainly a learning process with Axiom, because they basically have like a really cool Blender suit. It literally functions like Blender. Or you can choose it to look more like Axiom's design, but They have a whole blender suite of tools, and it's so cool to work with. Absolutely fantastic, and made a lot of this easier, and I can't wait to use it next time. I already have some wonderful ideas on how to use it to make Japanese mountains. Custom models in the game? A little bit. This is a mod called Stoneworks, which just takes the base textures in the game and applies it to most everything. So, like, we have cobbled end stone and basalt bricks, or I can find blackstone shingles. So it's basically just our copy out because we can't get chipped. Chipped is another really good one that does mostly the same thing, but it hasn't been updated to the newer versions, so we can't use it. So this is what we've been using instead. The server's mostly vanilla. It's really just vanilla tweaked. I don't think there's anything extremely out there aside from maybe our hammers. We have advanced, or not, we do have advanced netherite. That is a different mod we have. We have... What is that mod called? What is your mod called? Just hammers, there we go. So I can mine in a ridiculously large area a lot easier. And I'm definitely gonna need a lot more stone than I thought. Because wow. But most of our mods are just lifestyle tweaks. Like we have blasting mods, so you can put like sand and not glass. You can put sand and cobblestone in the blast furnaces, or you can put raw blocks of ore in blast furnaces, or just furnaces. I guess the main really modded thing we have is food. We have Farmer's Delight and cabinets from Farmer's Delight. And then storage drawers is another one, so we can have a lot more compact storage and we don't need to have a ridiculous amount of chests. And of course, it's almost night and I'm almost out of stone again. Honestly, I should have just filled my entire inventory with stone. I have the bare essentials on me and it's still not enough. Not like I carry a whole lot on me. Please. There we go. Ridiculous amount of chests. Yeah, every now and again I'll find them across the server. I opt for just lots of very specific storage. And speaking of, I'm just gonna go down to my storage for the moment, because that's where my bed is. So this is what my storage currently looks like. And these, when you upgrade them, if I can... Is it because I have something in my offhand? Yes. If you upgrade them, they can hold a ridiculous amount of items. Like, I have almost 30,000 deep slate because my base is underground. And then I have a lot of these cabinets are decorative, honestly. The cabinets, these tough cabinets, are, I think, all empty. Yeah, because I got rid of the stuff that was sitting in that one. And then slightly organized, which works out perfectly because I have 4 storage rooms that are going to be upstairs. So I can make this one into one room, everything that's there into one room, everything that's there into one room. And this, this might end up being split across the other ones, honestly. Because some of that stuff there just couldn't fit over there. I normally make various holes in mountains. I make my bases in and just make like 3 big rooms for chests. That's fair. This season, I wanted to just have a template base. So all of these are actually individual rooms. You can cut out this part is one schematic I have. And then I just copy paste them and do the interior. So my entire room, my entire mega base is just a copy pasted design basically. And I should have grabbed more stone walls down there, but oh well. We can go back and grab some in a moment. Which makes it really easy for me to get stuff done, because now I don't have to think about like half of it. And it makes it a lot easier because I can just stockpile my resources. Everything is made out of the same stuff, so it just suddenly becomes really easy to build about anything I want. Although I don't plan on adding too much more to my mega base, I do want to add another 3 rooms over here, 1 room, or 2 rooms in a hall, so I can have the ability to expand over here if I need to later, and the same thing on the other side, and add staircases in every direction. Can't say much about it. Most of the buildings I make are inspired from Pinterest. Oh, absolutely. A lot of my builds start from that, and I don't think this one did, actually. Or no, it did. My original idea was making something like Skyrim dungeon-esque, but then it ended up being the crazy thing that it is. Because my original thought process was every episode, I'd take a wheel randomizer, and I'd randomize the amount of chunks the room would take up, what the kind of room it was, how it'd look, etc. So some days I might make a hall, or I might make a giant hall. Other days I'd make a really small storage room, or I'd make a ridiculously sized kitchen that had no reason to be that large. Did I get the other side? No, I did not. That's the wrong button! I have my move down... Voice cracks, hello, I just want to talk. I have my move down a layer as my right alt, and it's right next to the Windows key, and I always press Windows key instead for some reason. Ah, my voice. But somehow, in the design of it, I ended up going for heavy function with a little bit... I'm out of stuff. With a tiny bit of form. I'm trying to add more form now. I want to add more decor to my base. Because it was meant to be far more industrial. There's a copper heart in the middle, which is the exact center of the server. And I wanted to add... I'm just going to place these last ones real quick. I want to add a bunch of copper piping around my base. This heart. Because it just kind of is a sore thumb in the middle of all of this right now. This ended up being my favorite palette out of everything I picked. Because I had a bunch of different ideas for what I wanted to do. And I went through a lot of different colors before ending up on this, which is a very basic palette, but it's also a very easy palette to acquire, which was the main bonus of it. Nope, that other way. And put that back. Up. Uno más. There we go. I'm definitely gonna need to grab another one. Oh, there we go. I like the dark woods. I don't like the lighter woods. Absolutely. I've been mixing about. Last season I used a bunch of acacia because it matches really well with copper. And I like using it for a bit of a rusted kind of copper look. And not like the actual copper itself, but it does really good for... we had like a medieval turn of the century town that I made for spawn. And acacia, stripped acacia specifically, was the perfect color for the kind of rusted older wood that you'd expect from that era. And much to Misty's annoyance, I use birch every now and again. My base last season had a bunch of birch in it because I was doing a sandstone birch and oxidized copper palette. And then I did a bunch of custom birch trees around the place as well. And then I think the only thing we got right now, let me pause the recording. The only thing we got birch right now is this that I made with the warped. I think that's the only heavy birch item I've made so far. Because I tend to lean towards an earthy palette, because I also built this. And that bridge. Although the Colosseum is not mine. But that's sandstone. Yeah, sandstone, mud brick, and oak and spruce, it looks like. And then that house ended up being mostly oak. I want to find a use case for the crimson wood, though. I haven't really found anything that makes me go, ooh, I need to use it for that. And and I'll grab the wood for that in a moment. So it just occurred to me, I already knew I'd over-collect some things, despite me making the schematic pretty optimized, but it probably also counted the existing build. So I definitely have extra spruce. I don't like the birch wood so much, but it's nice uses. Yeah, every now and again you can find a good use for it. You absolutely have to balance it out with other stuff, though. I find it's mainly good to use in conjunction with sandstone. I feel like that's the #1 use case for it. Sandstone and the growing amount of teal that we have for our color palette. Because we have a bunch of, like, tealer blocks now, because we have the prismarine, the dark prismarine, and the various warped items, and also the oxidized coppers now. So it's growing more and more useful as we go. I need literally 4 pieces in order to fill in this spot. Yeah, bloop. Bloop. I guess a much more modded item that we have. What are they? We have stairs and windows and doors and trapdoors from Macaw. So, like, I can get blinds if I want to. Or something I found a great use case for, they added curtain rods with the Macaw's windows. Ooh, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. The curtain rods, with how they're placed, they go to the lowest point of the block. So you can actually use them as a really low fence, and I've used it a bunch in this build. One, to show like a little threshold between my entranceway, which is stone, and the rest of the house, which is wood. And then I actually used it a bunch for different plots, garden plots. There we go. Could actually grab one more than that. Good thing I have a ridiculous amount of stone, and I will probably get more soon enough. I'm debating on how I want to go about the mountains for next time, because I know I want to add a bunch of Japanese, like turn this entire mountainside to a Japanese mountainside. The main difference you can really tell based on a little bit of my studies for making this build, even though I didn't get to use it this time, because I want the video done by tomorrow, so immediately after this I'm going to be editing. The main difference you can really tell is it's very sharp sloped mountains. And it's fantastic for Axiom. Because I need a little bit more wood for that. We're gonna finish that recording there. I will find a way to piece it together later. I always get more than 3 packs of cobblestone when I'm playing. I don't even know how. It always happens. I had, because of my base being underground, I had over a dozen double chests of deep slate. And I've since been slowly getting everything back down. Also, you're going to see my thumbnail for a second that I'm putting for the VOD. Even though it looks like... Oh, there we go. The YouTuber froze for a second. Minecraft? Thank you. I'm going to try and show this off without showing off too much background stuff, or too much behind the scenes. Welcome to the inside. We're going to ignore it. And I'm going to throw myself over here. So Axiom, if I turn on commands, I have this bound to right shift, and this is an entire Blender suit. And it's fantastic. But what I'm pretty sure I can do for next time is if we take a flat plane, we get this. Let me make this a bit wider so we can actually see what we're going with here. But if you go into the advanced settings, you can also change a bunch of these and even roll it. So I'm thinking, in order to make a bunch of mountains, let me change, not the pitch, I think it's the roll that I want to change. Yeah. If I take... I'm still learning how to actually use this. I place one right here. We're gonna change the, not the yaw, pitch. Which one rolls you? That's not the roll I wanted. I want to like push you that way. There we go. I can use it like this. That was too much? Trying to figure out. There we go. I can put one like this, enter. And then if I turn this the other way, suddenly I have a very quick... That did not match up at all. Please, I just want this to look cool. We have a very quick, albeit rough, hillside to make very sharp mountains super quickly. Your avatar started dozing off for a second on the loading screen. Yeah, some games I can't even play with the VTuber because the way I start the VTuber is if you go into VTube Studio folders, like it's actually... Of course. I need to completely close Minecraft and reopen it. The way I open the VTuber is going into the VTube Studio folders, and there is a folder you can click on called start_out_Steam. And if you click on that, it'll start without opening up Steam at all, which makes the VTuber run way better. But it also means for a lot of Steam games, my VTuber will run a lot slower, and depending on the game, it might be way worse. So I have a backup. Tiny guy. I have this guy as a backup. When I need to. Which is just one of the several emotes we have from, I did a bunch of warm-up doodles with Mew as a bunch of different random emotes. And just a little guy. Yeah. And it's actually what, if you look behind me, those are just a bunch of emotes. I did a bunch of doodles of like different Discord emojis. Like I typed into Pinterest Discord emoji and then drew Mew as a bunch of them as practice for drawing him. Oop. Apparently there's pillagers behind... It's not loading. It's pillagers behind me. We love resource packs. I do kind of want the bottles though, hold on. I do want the bottle. I need Bad Omen. I would like some. I like to stock up Bad Omen. Thank you. Have a good one. Fantastic. And they only gave me 2... You only gave me 2? Wow. How rude. Love having backpacks. Okay. And I should actually sleep first before I forget. Can I place? It's not gonna let me. Those are pillagers. I have a texture pack called We Don't Bite, and it changes the pillagers to look like polar bears, and all the villagers look like foxes. And they're downright adorable. I haven't started the flashback again yet, so let me come down here. I have a bunch of villagers down here, so I think this is gonna be the best way to show it. Of course, I immediately hit a corner. Look at them! They're just little guys. And they're adorable. And they all make fox sounds now instead. And that's why my totem looks like a fox. We do have a texture pack on the server to make it look like the Blahaj, the IKEA shark. But I've been using the fox totem instead because it works beautifully for my portal. And I need apparently 2 more pieces of that. And place those. Boop. Boop. And then grab way more stone. Easy place mode. Flashback back on. Fantastic. But yeah, slow progress on everything. And I'm so excited to use that technique next time. I'm thinking there's also a path tool I used for the roofs for this place. And I'm thinking that can also be a really good way to make those mountains. Oh no! I have never been in IKEA. The closest I've been is that Roblox game that's 3008, the Infinite IKEA SCP. That's the closest I've been. I've never stepped foot in IKEA. I need to go visit one sometime. I have a friend that's been to it quite a lot, so I need to just talk to her and hey, we need to go see IKEA. I've never been in one. I feel like that's the experience. I don't know why this is such a weird thing, but for some reason, like, internet culture insists Arby's are just, like, fictional. They don't exist, and so my online friends refuse to believe, 1, that I have an Arby's near me, 2, that it's a good Arby's. There's another- I need shingles. Like, I know I'm missing a block. Which block is it? Boop, 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 boop. Like, it's not restaurant quality food, but it's decent food. My voice is going again. Yeah, I also played that before, but there's an IKEA near my house, so I always go there just to look at stuff. Hell yeah. I have a fair amount of malls near me because I'm, like, deep in the city. Like, I can walk around the corner and there's just convenience stores in a strip mall kind of deep in the city. So I just have my choice of take a bus and I'll probably hit some sort of strip mall. Although we have, like, a giant proper mall. Not too far. I need to go there more often. There's a place in there that sells mochi donuts, and they're really good. They had, like, a strawberry matcha one the last time I was there. It was matcha with, like, what looked like Frosted Flakes, like strawberry sprinkled bits on it, and it was so good. My poor luck me live far from my man Dunkin' Donuts. Is this- hold on, is this gonna dox me? How many- I know you're a West Coast, but how much of a West Coast are you? Where- maps, Google Maps. How much of a West Coast is this? Okay, good thing I didn't, because that would straight up dox me. That is literally just a me thing. I thought that was way more. There's a popular coffee shop kind of like Dunkin' Donuts near me. It's not a donut place, but it's just a popular drive-through one. And there's like 3 near me, but they're all just barely not close enough that it's like a reasonable walking distance. All of them are like over a mile from me in like 3 different directions. I'm happy I didn't say that name out loud. Because all of them are apparently completely centered on where I live. To be fair, there are like a couple dozen of them, but they're only where I live. I thought that was way more common. It is not. It's so weird streaming because you're like, wait, is this a common thing? And then you learn, no, it's literally, it's not even my state, it's only my city. Other things you'll go, oh, wait, this isn't a my city thing? And you realize, huh, they just exist everywhere. Like, the sports store Big Five, they're across, like, the entire West Coast and even across some of the Midwest. I barely know the damn thing exists. It's just been here forever. It's outlasted even the craft stores. But my choice usually is a couple of local cafe spots. There's one I absolutely adore that's a reasonable walk near me, and it's like right near the library too. And they have such fucking good cream cheese danishes. They're absolutely amazing, and they're not small danishes either. They're a decent price, they're like $5-6, and they're like the size of a sandwich. At least in like width, or length and width. Height, they're only like 9.5 inch tall, but they're so good. I don't know what drugs they put in them, but it's delicious. And thankful, okay, I have ADHD. I am medicated for ADHD, and this isn't all ADHD meds, but mine, I cannot have caffeine. It absolutely ruins the effectiveness of them. And so I've been slowly learning. Thankfully, a lot of my local places do have decaf options, and I am so happy. Like, there's a chai place that opened up near me. They're alright, but at least I can get decaf there. So it's fine. I really like Dunkin', but I also go to my cousin's cafe. Oh, hell yeah. Love situations like that. One of my... I'm out of stone. One of my cousins would walk down to his grandparents' cafe a bunch. He would always be talking about it when he come up and visit. Or, come oh. I don't know which direction he's in, really. I know he's in some mountains. I don't know, I can't tell you which direction it is. It's mountains. I'm gonna use, like, all of my stone for this project, jeez. Oh, really? And, boop. And then fill up inventory. What? There we go. You make some fire cookies. Hell yeah! I always wanted... In the future, I do want to open my own cafe eventually. I absolutely adore coffee. And despite now not needing it in the slightest, I still make coffee all the time. My favorite brand forever will always be Café du Monde. You can find them on Amazon. They do dark roast, normal roast, and a decaf. You can get a tin of their coffee for, I think, about like $12 or so. The decaf is like 15, and I think the dark roast somewhere in between there. And they're so good. It's a lovely, rich, earthy flavor. If you make cold brew with it, whether or not you make cold brew or hot brew with it, if you're making espresso black, it's a nice, really smooth, rich flavor, and it's so good. I adore it. The only reason I even found out about it, it's like a French-Vietnamese brand somewhere in between there. I worked at a boba place for a little bit, and we did do cold brew. And we used a brick of the Café du Monde in like a cheesecloth bag in a gallon tub in order to make the cold brew. And I specifically remembered this brand and then found out, oh wait, my local Vietnamese restaurant that's like right across the road from where I used to work also sells it. And then I found out it's on Amazon too. And this tin lasts me ages, because it's not a small tin either. It's like a... I have one behind me. Hold on. How big are you? It is a 15-ounce tin. I always thought I hated coffee because when I was younger, I drank coffee for the first time, and I hated the taste. But when I tried it a second time a few years later, I loved it. I started coffee... I, like, knew as a child, oh, I'm not really allowed to have this, and apparently that stuck around too long. Because I remember the first instance of me getting coffee was we were in line at the grocery store. I was like 12 or 13. I was kind of looking at the drinks. I'm like, is it okay if I get coffee? And I'm looking at like this stupid... one of like the Starbucks prepared frappes, like the vanilla frappe. I might have gotten a mocha that time though. And it's like, yeah, you can get coffee. I'm like, cool. And then I started drinking those specifically, religiously, throughout all of middle school. And I think it was high school I started really making my own. Because at that point we got a Keurig. So I was making Keurigs most mornings. And then learned the joy of my local grocery chain. They also have... they've collaborated with another company, so I can get fresh... Oh, my voice. I can get fresh ground coffee from that. And they have a bunch of different flavors and roasts, too. So I started doing that and making Keurigs. You can get a reusable cup, so you can do ground coffee with it. And I was doing that a bunch. And then when I got out of school, I was continuing to do that, and then found... my favorite coffee brand, the Café du Monde. I was making... I've switched back and forth between cold brew Oh, I completely missed a part of this. I started making cold brew because I was using the, like, Starbucks, like, cold brew extract or concentrate. I did not know it was a concentrate, much like most people, and you're supposed to add water to it. Because that is not clear in the slightest, and I shouldn't have been doing that. And I realized how much of a ripoff the cold brew was, because it's extremely easy to make your own cold brew at home. Literally, take, like, half a cup of beans, throw it in a pitcher, fill the pitcher with water, you're done. Set it in the fridge, forget about it till the next morning. You're welcome. If you don't want the beans in there, put the beans, what I like doing now, you can get cheesecloth bags for this. What I personally do is I'll grab a coffee filter, I'll put the beans in the coffee filter, and then I'll wrap the filter like a dumpling with twine. So I just have a little, like, coin purse of the beans, and then throw it in, and that usually will hold together. And then you don't have your beans in your delicious cold brew. But cold brew and a lot of coffee things are just an absolute scam, because you can make them so much easier for half the price, or even a quarter of the price, at home. Do not buy simple syrup. It is literally 1 part sugar, 1 part water. The only thing you have to worry about is the container you put it in. I just drink black coffee most of the time. I, by pure accident, found out I really like Americanos. One of my really small, like we're talking it has 1 or 2 locations, local cafes. I went there once with a friend, and I asked for the cold brew with, like, some caramel syrup, because I adore caramel. And they're like, hey, we don't have any cold brew right now. What I can do instead for you is I can make a iced Americano and still add the caramel syrup and leave some room for cream. Is that alright? I'm like, yeah, sure. And that's how I found out I love Americanos. And that is my default now. This Christmas I got myself, with a little gift card, I got myself a mocha pot, which is just a tiny little stovetop espresso pot. You put water in the bottom and coffee into this little filter, and it's basically a very tiny pressure cooker. Like, we're talking, it's the size of 2 shot glasses on top of each other. It is not a huge thing, and it makes 1 serving of espresso. So most mornings, I will put that little thing together and make an espresso of some sort with it. I've been going back and forth. If I really want to spend the time, I will go full in on some steamed milk and make like a macchiato. But most of the time, I just default to an iced Americano with some caramel syrup and cream. Or just a straight-up latte, if I don't feel like doing a whole lot. But a lot of the time, I will at least add like some caramel flavoring or something. I love my caramel way too much, and I should probably look into a recipe I like to make my own caramel syrup. Otherwise, we gotta go to a local bulk store that sells syrup bottles for a very good price. Because most places around here will sell the syrup bottles for like $8, $10 minimum, and this place sells them for like 5 or 6. And these are not small. These are not the small bottles either. These are the big boys. These are the bulk. But I should honestly start making my own because I know it's going to take half the amount. If I do like half a thing, I'm out of it. If I do like half a bat or container, trying to talk and refill resources at the same time doesn't work. If I do like half a container of caramel syrup plus some sugar, or just start making my own damn caramel, do half a container or bottle, half a bottle of caramel syrup, add some sugar to it, and then fill the rest of it with water, it should be A-okay. Most syrups are extremely easy to make at home, unless you're making something like peppermint syrup or hazelnut. That requires a lot more work. A lot of them you can just straight up make. Usually it's literally, if you're making a fruit syrup, 1 part fruit, 1 part frozen fruit, 1 part sugar. Congrats, you're done. Put it in a pot, let it simmer. And then if you want to, for an even better result, you should probably also strain it or put it through like a cheesecloth. If you like a little pulp though, just leave it as it is. Stick it in a bottle or like a mason jar. Ta-da. You have syrup. Honestly, that's how easy a lot of cafe and coffee stuff is. I think most of the price for coffee nowadays goes into either paying workers, paying the CEO, or just the pure price of convenience. Because all of this is so easy to make that it's practically a scam. It's literally just a matter of taking the time or equipment to do it. Yeah, boop. I used to be heavily into tea too, but that's kind of fallen off. There's a great online service. I've been getting emails from them again. I'm tempted to look into their decaf section. The Republic of Tea. They're absolutely fantastic, have a great selection. And they'll actually show the caffeine content on the bottle too, which I adore. That's fantastic. I love it. Appreciate it a whole bunch. But they have a huge selection of teas, and they even do like collaborations every now and again. Ooh, green tea, yes. I've been doing green tea and matcha lately, because I got a matcha whisk, finally, and it's so good. I do have to be careful though, matcha has a surprising amount of caffeine. Like, we're talking closer to coffee than it is to black tea. So you do gotta be careful of the caffeine content of that. But otherwise, it's so good. I've been doing a little bit. Green tea and honey. Green tea, honey, and milk. Make a delicious green milk tea. It's so good. I have like a little ceramic pot, and every now and again I'll make just a little pot of green tea and put some honey crystals in the bottom with some sugar. And just sit there and drink some nice, warm, delicious tea. I don't like matcha as much, though. That's fair. I think the problem is a lot of matcha, when it's being, like, sold from fast food drink places, I would trust a small sit-down cafe to make matcha more than I would trust a fast food place. Because fast food places tend to go heavy on the matcha. If you're getting a really dark green matcha, it has gone heavy on the matcha. You do not need that much. You made, like, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon, half a teaspoon, if you're doing, like, an 8 ounce. You do not need a lot of matcha to water. And even less sweetener, too. It does depend on the milk you're using, absolutely, though. Because I just don't like the taste of oat milk. Or, I don't like the taste of regular milk. So I drink oat milk instead. And that ends up for some delicious ones. Most of the time on streams I'll end up having a matcha because it's just easy to quickly whip up. Yeah, all the times I've had matcha, it was a deep green. Yeah. You want like more of a jade color. Something closer to like the sugarcane up there. Not necessarily that dark green. You want a nice, good green. Not a super light green, but just a nice, even mid-tone of green. The dark greens have gone too heavy in on the matcha. I strongly recommend, even if you don't like have full-on materials for it, you can find like packets of matcha usually. Don't bother with ceremony matcha. Literally just find culinary grade matcha. It's the exact same thing. You can get like a packet of it for like $8 on Amazon. Grab your standard good old whisk. Just a normal ass whisk, because this is good enough to work. I used it for a while before I got my own matcha whisk. Grab a measuring cup, pour a little bit of water on top of the matcha, and whisk it, not very long, just enough to mix it in. Usually take like literally 2 seconds of this. You'll whisk around like twice, up and down twice, and back and forth twice. And that's usually enough to mix it all together. And it won't overmix it. It's like pancakes. And then pour that over your iced milk or steamed milk if you want a latte matcha. And then you're ready to go. That's it. You're done. Unless you want to add sugar. And that's literally it. That's all you need. You do not need a whole lot. literally put in like a teaspoon of the matcha and you're fine. Or just grab like grab a normal spoon and maybe don't fill the entire thing. Do like a little layer or a little clump on it and you're good. So I'm tempted to go make some matcha after this. I still don't know what I'm doing for lunch. I need to figure that out. I might make some taboke. I have made traditional taboke. I usually tend towards leaning, at some point when I was first looking into taboke, sticky rice cakes, if you don't know what taboke is. I found a sweet honey glazed one. Or a pan-fried honey one? I can't remember the exact name of the recipe. But it's just like a sweet and spicy one, and I've been leaning towards making that lately. And I'm thinking instead of just throwing cheese on top, I want to see if I make a roux for the cheese sauce instead, how that's going to turn out. So I might try that today. That sounds really good. I heard matcha has its own whisk or something, right? Yes. But a normal whisk would work. Yeah, normal whisk can work. It's not the same result, but it will absolutely get you the result you want. The matcha whisk is called a chosen, and it has its own little stand and a tiny bit of preparation. Literally, you just whisk it in some hot water before you use it. A lot of places will tell you to soak it. That could actually break it further, or break it faster. So you just whisk it in a little bit of hot water and then use it. Chosens are made out of bamboo, and they work fantastically because they're specifically made for whisking matcha and for the bowls they come with. Although you do have to be a little bit more careful with them because they can be more brittle. You don't want to push them too hard into the bowl. Otherwise, you can also break the chosen like that. While I'm, like, heavily white, my childhood best friend growing up, who I have nicknamed Sugar Cookie on the channel to refer to her, Cookie is half Japanese, so... Oh, hello, sir. Half Japanese, so I grew up with her and her mom's culture, and so it surprises people sometimes. I went to physical therapy for a little bit last year, and the person I was visiting and seeing was Asian, and she was so surprised by all this stuff. Because I'm, like, openly talking about it. She's like, you know that? I'm like, yes, this is what I grew up with. And my local area has a bunch of Asian sit-down places and culture, thankfully. The one thing we're lacking is Indian, though. We have a bunch of small business Asian and various types of Asian, Vietnamese, Chinese. I don't think we have any Filipino, though. And then a bunch of Mexican places as well. But we have, like, I only know of one Indian place. And it got moved, so... It got moved from its original spot. So people kind of just forgot it existed, so it's just hiding in a little corner in a strip mall. And people are like, wait, you're over here now? I'm like, yes, we are. I'm lucky enough to have been steeped in a bunch of culture. And my mom's always been really good about, growing up, she'd make and try out a bunch of different recipes from various cultures and different random foods. So, like, I grew up knowing and tasting, like, I love spaghetti squash, which is just a random thing to throw out, but, yeah. And we'll go back and forth. I don't think we've made any, like, extremely traditional dishes, but in large part, she'll try and vary up pretty often what she's cooking and what we're doing for, dinners. She makes a damn good soup. And cookies. We just finished up December, which in this house means cookie month. My mom makes a different cookie every single day of the month. And it is ridiculous and amazing. A soldier beetle in my window. Ooh. Hey, boop. Hey, boop. Oop, and then take a little bit out. There we go. Hopefully this should be enough. I shouldn't need to come back down for stone anytime soon. I'm pretty sure this should be the last layer. And it took an hour to get here. Lovely. And the layer... Yeah, okay. So this is the last pure stone layer. And then we'll finally get into the actual build. And it's gonna probably need some minimal cleanup over here, but it shouldn't need too much. Thank you, Nightbot. I slowly build up things. I slowly do everything. I need to get grocery shopping done. So we're not going to be streaming tomorrow morning. I know I need to get a bunch of work done. I need to get shorts done for the next week because I only have one more for Tuesday or something like that. I have only 1 or 2 more. And I've been trying to post most of the week. Because I'd like to take Mondays and Thursdays off. Because it usually ends up lining up perfectly with various events. I know I need to get shorts done tomorrow. I need to work on that little project that I need to do to post something on February 1st. And hopefully if I can, I want to see if I can spend tomorrow also editing. A little while ago, we played Golf Around, and that had some funny moments in it, and I got it mostly cut down. All I have to do is just edit the clips. So you can actually see what happens, because I use silence detection to help me get through the clips faster. So all I have to do is just edit the clips so you can see what happens, and then it's ready to go. So hopefully I might get that done today, depending on editing. We'll see. I want to try and also post that tomorrow. Cookie month? I have a candy day every Saturday. I take a pot and fill it a little with candy so I can fan it while watching something on my TV. Hell yeah. Cookie month, my mom makes a different cookie from scratch every single day. And it's ridiculous and amazing. You have a YouTube? Yes. I'm pretty sure if I do, it's just Whitey. Yep, there we go. There's the YouTube, and there's also a second channel. If I do get the Golf Around video done, it'll go there. And then this VOD will also go to the second channel. But the YouTube mostly carries my shorts and the videos from... I hit my mic. The videos from this SMP. Just a little bit more stone. A little bit more. Apparently this was not enough. Oh. Is this the video I think it is? What is this? No, okay, it's that. Trying to figure out what the song was. It was not what I thought it was. Why do I still have Modrinth open? You're not supposed to be open. You're just gonna lag on my computer. But yes, I do have a YouTube. It's been, there's several other videos. I've been slowly figuring out my editing style, so there's quite a variation of them. And I've changed up my model and persona quite a bit over the past several months. But there is a bunch of other videos for this season of Passion SMP, as well as last season of Passion SMP. And I also have a mod pack called Amalgamation that went through several iterations. So there's videos of me doing challenges for that mod pack as well. Because that mod pack was made specifically with the idea in mind of trying to make the Skyrim experience, not the look, the experience specifically within Minecraft. And I think by the end we mostly got it down. Hopefully this is enough. Where would that block be? Stone, stone. Boop. And that's still going. Wonderful. And hopefully the rest of this doesn't take nearly as long as all of this did. Nice, I'll check out a video later. Yeah, I have quite a few. I've been posting up until I think it was about November or December of last No, I think it was more like September of last year. I posted every week or two. The entire year. And then I burnt out at the end of season 2, and then I've been getting back into it again. And now for this year, again, I'm gonna try and consistently post every week, and actually hold myself to, last time I did this in mind with, oh, I'll just show what I've been doing on the SMP that week, and then I got too much in my head about it and completely forgot that's what I was trying to do. So this year, I'm actually trying to do that and show off this bit of progress and that thing. Not... too many things. I want to get rid of all this. There we go. But there is quite a few videos. And then I have like, I think 2 or 3 videos for the second channel that I need to edit right now. First is the golf around, and then I might actually sit down and edit Castle Crashers, which would make... I think that would make 3 or 4 videos. Then I have Baby Mew clips. I have a... at the beginning of last year, when we all thought TikTok was going to go away, and it briefly did, I went in and saved a bunch of my oldest videos. And I still had those, so I'm like, okay, instead of just sitting down by myself and reacting to them, why not stream it? So we streamed reacting to Baby Mew clips, which included some of my original face reveal. Because I have revealed my face a couple times, I just don't bother with it. It's not related to my content at all, so it is what it is. And it just makes it easier for me to focus on doing the content rather than how am I reacting? Is my face in frame? How do I place the camera? Etc., etc. I still need more stone. Just gonna grab 1, 2, 3 more stacks. Hopefully that's enough. I hit a wall. Hit another one. And so I had a bunch of old clips from when I first started streaming with horrible audio quality. And that I need to edit down and make into an actual video. And then we also... I know there's another one I'm thinking of. The Baby Mew clips, Castle Crashers, Golf Around. I did tear a Swoop Force a little while ago, just as a random fun thing, because I'm like, I don't want to quite end stream yet. We're just gonna go do this. I don't know why that was like that. Oh, I know why. Okay, never mind. I need to get this spot as well, and this. And I'm not sure if that will be its own video or not. I still have to look through and see, do I want to make this a video at all? Hi! I'm at work, you're small. Hi, Plush. No matter what time I stream, it seems, you're always at work. Okay, bye. I should have expected. Okay, now the fun. Where is my blocks that I need? Not here. Is it this one? Yes. We'll take a couple of stacks of that, a couple stacks of that, and a few of those. Did it pause because this is kids' content? Yes. I just want my Minecraft parodies to play, but that's not gonna happen. Where's Waldo? Probably at home. It's pretty early in the morning. Maybe. He could be at work. It's like 11. Honestly, the Where's Waldo on this server is a race car. He's got a couple usernames at this point. He has Billy Bob in chat, and it's race car most everywhere else. And he's just become kind of the cryptid of the server, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know why this has occurred, it just has. Like, those stairs there? That's from him just sitting and watching me terraform this area. Because this area on the original seed is a giant mountainside. And so I had to terraform it for the entrance to my base. And now we're terraforming it again for this thing. And then I'm gonna terraform it some more. So he might actually move those stairs. But he has seats across the server to just kind of watch whatever people are doing at any given time. I'm honestly surprised he didn't show up for this one. Although I think he last said he's going to be off the server for a little bit. But he is the resident that causes all the chaos. And I don't know why, and I need to stop questioning it. Because it's just going to keep happening. Yeah, I love terraforming mountains. That's how I really started playing Minecraft, is for some reason I would just sit there for hours upon hours. And because of the way I started playing Minecraft, because I didn't want to do anything but build, I would either play Creative Worlds, or I'd play, like, easy or peaceful survival. And I didn't want to deal with the progress. I didn't want to deal with diamonds and going mining. So I'd sit there and mine entire mountains with stone, usually stone, sometimes iron pickaxes, because I didn't even think about making an iron farm. I started playing on the PS3, and I still have some of these old worlds. And then I moved over to Xbox, and it was late into me playing Xbox, I started actually playing through survival mode. I think it was Xbox was the first time I ever, like, actually enchanted an item, and it wasn't the tutorial world. That's stone. And then when I moved over to playing PC, because I hadn't quite moved off of Bedrock yet, I think it was to mainly play with friends. I bought the Bedrock version of Minecraft first. Still trying to, like, half focus on doing this. I played the Bedrock version of Minecraft first, and I still have my early streaming clips are on PC Bedrock Minecraft. And I still have this world. It's titled My First World because it's the first world I played on PC, and I still have the original world for this. And boop, 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 boop. And then I think it was, around 6 months or so, it wasn't a full year, I know that much, but about 6 months or so into me streaming, I finally bought Java Minecraft, and I slowly got introduced to, like, doing SMPs and doing this and doing that. Hosted my own SMP, Homeos SMP, for a little bit. It died. We did a season 2. It died again. And then I decided my original idea for Passion SMP... Where do I have these blocks? Here? Yes. My original idea for Passion SMP was to have a SMP, quote unquote. The weather looks so rainy when I'm leaving, damn. Uh-oh. Or living, I assume, maybe. The original idea for Passion SMP was... Let me get rid of some of this. This is the wrong backpack. Up. Where do... I don't know why I have a bunch of extra, but I have a bunch of extra. Okay. The original idea for Passion SMP was I'd slowly bring on different people, and we'd just talk about their passion. Something unrelated to streaming entirely. Just a secret passion of theirs. Which is why it started being called. Living later. Which is why I called it Passion SMP originally. And so I kind of started Season 1 with that. I had my mod Pumpkin on the server. And I did the first episode by myself, and the second episode I brought him on. Hold on. Apparently, I have lunch figured out for me. I need a text and order. The second episode, I brought Pumpkin on, and then we did a bunch of episodes by ourselves. And I later on just ended up completely opening the server. Let me type for a second. And the first person to join was Lilac, then Oops All Penguins, which originally went by a different username that I can't remember off the top of my head. And what sandwich do I want? What's completely unrelated? What sandwich do I want? Yeah, which? Ah, there it is. Yeah, I should. I have the same order basically all the time, and it's usually just a club sandwich or like turkey. Where is that brother? Where? There he is. What size does this place do? What? I'm just gonna type medium, I guess. Or regular. That's probably regular. That's how most sandwich shops do. There we go. Yay, lunch is figured out. I don't have to worry about that. Ooh, chicken sandwich. I think that's my mom's go-to order. I don't know, I've just never... I'm usually a big fan of chicken and like pastas and soups. I usually default to ham and turkey on sandwiches. What was I doing? Oh right, Passion SMP and then other stuffs. Yes. And then... I don't care that's incorrect, it's fine. And that's where the single slab comes in. Perfect. Ooh, Raisin Canes. Hydrate, yes, yes, yes. Billy Bob, we're talking about Passion SMP and how it got started. Passion SMP Season 1, we ended... I think it was the end of August. And then we picked this up just a few days... Picked up Season 2 just a few days later. And most of us started together, and we've added a few more people since. Oh, right. For some reason, I have a ridiculous amount of... Oh, I know why there's so many spruce stairs. I forgot that's part of the design. I completely forgot I have that as part of my walls. Pot. There we go. And we're gonna pause everything else for a moment so I can come through over here, and we're gonna terraform the hell out of that. I'm gonna put those up there temporarily so I can separate this out a little easier. Hey, boop. Or Splinko. I still need I need to write down, actually, that I want to change that and look into it. There's so many things I want to change up for streams, and then I immediately forget after I'm done. You know, I do have note cards in front of me. Hold on, we're gonna do this. Note card, pencil. Change for Splinko? Question mark. There we go. And we've slowly added more mods over the course of Passion SMP. It originally started with very bare, just like vanilla tweaks kind of mods. So, Sodium, which is just performance. I don't think... I'm trying to think of what else we had, because we did not have a lot. I used World Edit and like Matica for some things. I don't think we had any serious mods that like changed up the game. Season 2... we decided to mod it a little more. Mainly, the main thing that I brought up was the... what is it called? Repurposed structures. Which is a mod that takes the main structures of the game, for example, the Woodland Mansion. And then you can find it in the different biomes. So you can find like a birch woodland mansion or an oak woodland mansion instead. And then we slowly added on more and more because Misty does a lot of modding. And so she brought up the idea of like, hey, maybe we could add some of the Macaw's things. And I brought up some counter offers, so we ended up with the mods we have now. And then we've been slowly adding more mods since. More recently, the storage drawers and backpacks. How much longer are you going to be streaming? I'm planning on streaming hopefully to the end of this build. That is the hope, that is the plan. So, at least another hour. I'm definitely not gonna get this done in 2 hours like I wanted. But hopefully within 2.5, 3 hours. I don't want to stop streaming until we're done with this build. And honestly, I might be able to push it and make it happen in 2 hours if we do not do any interior. There is some light interior, but it's nothing heavy. It's mostly just the roof that's going to be the long part to actually do. And I need to terraform this a little bit, which is going to take some time. So, concrete answer, half hour to another hour and a half. So quite a bit longer. I gotta go do something. Bye-bye. Thank you for stopping by. It was nice talking with you. Hopefully I'll see you next time. I seriously want to get this done today, though. Because if I'm not going to do it on stream, it's going to be an off stream. And I'd much rather just get it done on stream. And I need to go put all of these crops away because I'm not replanting them. Thankfully, I have a secure, easy spot to place all of them. And then change these to rice. And then, perfect. Nice talk, too. Probably one of the best talks I've had this week. Hell yeah, nice. Hope to see you again, then. I don't know of the next stream currently. Guaranteed next Saturday, also 9 AM PST. Probably, though, Thursday, or this coming Thursday at 6 PM PST. Is that enough? That's probably not enough terraforming. I think we're just going to do a quick once-over of this, because I can't... Okay, this'll do. We can do this. And if you want a guaranteed answer of when I'm streaming, there is the Discord to check out. All that will dry soon enough, so I'm not going to worry about fixing it to be correct. And this is kind of giving a sneak peek of what the manor is going to look like, but that was inevitable. I've been mostly avoiding it, but I'm so excited for it to be done. It's going to look fantastic. Easy place, there we go. And I'm not going to worry too much about the path. If I forget about it, I forget about it. If I don't, I don't. Oh. Annoying. I just want to quickly terraform this so it's not too upset at me. And I will deal with the inconsistencies later. Just... This sadly does cover up the entrance. Extremely so to the base. I probably should have better plotted this out. But I'll probably terraform this even more. There we go. Lovely. We'll slowly get it figured out. This is gonna need so much terraforming. The general base area, that is. Oh, I covered this area, that's why. And I'm gonna need to cover that spot, otherwise people are definitely gonna fall in and get stuck. That is not poop. Wonderful. I didn't place the other torch back, so we're not going to worry about it. Get rid of that block. Get rid of that. And then I'm going to place a bunch of blocks down here. And that's enough terraforming to at least get this somewhat going. Then we're not going to worry about the rest of it. Of course it's raining, but at least it's almost daytime. Almost. I think we're at a good stopping point. I'm going to have us take a break for a moment. I'm going to get up, stretch, get some more water. And then we'll pick back up. I'm going to place my bed down. And I think the perfect spot for us to sit... I'm going to steel pump these house for a second. We're just going to... There we go, that'll do. Or Splinko has decided. Oh, I never... Okay, I have a be right back scene. I don't have anything on it. Is it this text? Why do I have a text? I swear I used to have something for this. What? Did I get rid of my BRB thing? I think I made a be right back screen and then forgot to actually do anything with it. So we're just gonna take... I should still have it. Hopefully. Desktop. Stream. This one! You're gonna see a horrible green screen for like 2 seconds. Apparently I don't have this anymore. Chroma key. Yes. Loop. There we go. We'll be right back. Let me move that to be a better spot. We'll be right back. See y'all in a moment. Alrighty. We are back. Let me get rid of that. Well, let's get back into this. Of course, it's nighttime. And there's pillagers at my base again somewhere. There. I can't... Oh, that. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother. Not gonna bother. And right now my base is just a giant spawn platform. Because of course it is. Sirs, can you all just... not? That is an option. Not. Thank you. Can y'all do the same? Can y'all do the same, please? Thank you. Okay. Guess I have my bed placed down. We're gonna move about my inventory for this. Okay. I still gotta place the campfire for right here. Bonk. 66. Not bad. That's going down. That's not going up. Up. There we go. And a bunch of stuff we need to place. So this is probably the most furnished floor out of all of them. And I think we will actually go through and do all of it. I would like to do that. I think... Let's do the walls and then we'll do interior. This floor just needs a bunch of spruce. Or does it even need spruce yet? I'm gonna keep spruce on me just in case. I don't think it does, but just in case. Is it this one? Yes. We need a bunch of stripped spruce. And I think we need some of the trims. So I'll grab a little bit of that. And I know we need some of the lesser items. I should probably do it like this so it's easy to throw back in my inventory. We need some of these oak. We need you. There's a singular door in this one. We need the stove for this layer. Oh, we're not thinking about furniture yet. I think that's about it as far as like straight up walls and such go. Yeah. Good thing I did actually grab the trim because I couldn't tell if I needed it yet or not. Oh, this design originally had cabinets as its bottom layer. But then I realized, oh wait, that's probably going to be really laggy. Especially because I'm going to add even more cabinets for my storage rooms. So last minute on my second pass of the build, which I did not record, I changed, last minute for my second pass of the build, I changed all of the cabinets to these just stripped spruce logs. Excuse? Oh. And I'm hoping a lot of these rooms are empty, but then the ones that aren't empty are fairly decorated is my problem. So, I assume we can get this done in the next hour and a half. But this is also... There is a balance between... I'm trying to figure out how to word this right. The foundation, I honestly think will take longer than anything else here. The foundation is just absolutely filled to the brim with stone, which is what made it take the first freaking hour. But I imagine this shouldn't take nearly as long. It's just more complex is the only issue here. And that is literally the only thing that separates out these two and makes them such different tasks. And some of these things do have to be placed meticulously, annoyingly. So we'll try and do this to the best of our abilities. And now grabbing all the tiny little things that we need to place. Let's start with some of the tatami mats, because this is the only place that actually uses tatami mats. Everywhere else, I use tatami blocks instead. Or did I use? I don't think I used tatami mats anywhere else. I still have 20, so did I? I don't honestly remember. I swore I only used blocks. I guess we're gonna find out where I did then, because I don't remember using any more than that. These metal curtain rods, I found out the curtain rods are fantastic. For tiny fences and crossways, because you can easily walk over this. It just makes a beautiful barrier between those two blocks where we otherwise wouldn't. And same thing for all the spruce rods I used right here. It's a fantastic short fence. I don't know why I started using it like this. I just realized in the middle of building, hey, I can do this. And it has worked out fantastic so far. And I loved making these cute little sand pits. I have another one upstairs as well, which is where the rest of these rods will go. And then we have quite a few cactus flowers about, decorated pots, bamboo. We don't need string yet. We do need the cross lanterns, and the chains go here, as well as some of the stone and stone buttons. Oh. Hi. I should probably make a group. Live. Open. There we go. Do I need pots? I need pots. I don't think we don't need Cherry Grove just yet, but I do need... I need the big pots. Where are the big pots? Oh, oh, no, they're in my inventory. That's why I can't find them. I already have them. Easy place mode on. Thank you. This is so cute. I love... No. That is not correct. Thank. No! I don't think... I shouldn't need my shovel for anything else. Turn off easy place mode. There we go. What do you mean? Easy place mode, you are great, but sometimes you just flat out suck. You do not understand how to use pots at all. I'm not trying to place the bamboo, I'm trying to place the pot. There we go. And then pot, 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 pot. Another pot, another pot, pot. All pots? 2 pot. 1, 2, make that 3 pot. All pot? Yes, pot. There's too many little things I used everywhere. These don't go back in here. There you go, and the other one. Boop, boop. Don't need these yet anymore. I'm gonna keep the bamboo on me because we're gonna need to slowly build that up. That doesn't need to be... I do... place a basket here. The next basket isn't going to be used for a little while. Stove goes here. Both hoppers are being used on this layer. One right there. I don't know why. I love using hoppers for sinks. It just makes me think of a sink. And then there's a couple spruce platforms I used. And the spruce platforms are great for countertops. Or like floating countertops and shelves. And I'm just gonna place these preemptively. Toilet. Slabs. And then I need to grab these shit ton of stairs that I need. I'm gonna preemptively start grabbing windows. Boop. Yep. Easy place. Thank you. And I need to start placing doors after that. And a bunch of other things. I can preemptively place you. I don't have easy place mode on. There we go. I think all of the tough countertops are in this place. Yes. You're one. You're this thing, this. Slab, stairs, little table. But that's stairs. 8 of them. And the singular dark oak barn door, which is one of the most annoying things to craft for no particular reason. I despise the barn door recipe. Because you have to craft a glass door and then put a piece of wood with the glass door, and it's the weirdest thing for no particular reason. Cactus flower. The cactus flowers are great, though. They work so well with the cherry blossoms, and I adore it. Place? Oh, you suck. You don't want to place pots at all, and it's the most annoying thing. And candle. Doors. Lots of doors. And those must be placed like that, so I can do this. And then place 1, 2, these first, and then that one. These 2 first. What do you mean? Thank you. And then these 2. That one. These 2. That one. I originally just went with a 1 open door, but they didn't work how I wanted, so I ended up going with a full 3. And while it looks a little goofy, thank you for sleeping. While it looks a little goofy, it actually works really well once the whole thing's built. There we go. Boop, boop. And bop, bop. Good. Thankfully, once I get into the groove of this, it's really easy to build. It's just a bunch of tiny things I just copy-pasted over and over, basically. Honestly, I don't think I need to place the rest of the bamboo. I think by the time I get up to where it'll stop, it will already have been at that point. That sounds weird as hell, but trust it definitely makes sense. It gets stopped growing because of where the stairs are, because it's directly underneath them. So by the time I get the stairs done, it should probably be at about that point. It'll be fully grown to where it should be. I think this is one of the... Which one did I do here? That one. So I need... Spruce drawer? Drawer. And then you are... Oh, you're those ones. I use so many of the different drawers in this. I could have made them all the same, but no, I wanted it to look pretty. So there's a bunch everywhere. Okay, thankfully that is everything for this layer of the first floor. You're just gonna get thrown in there. And, I should actually put the stairs back in their appropriate spot. Because otherwise I will forget. And now we need to start collecting the various stairs and railings. I'm so glad I went with the terrace stairs instead. I almost did skyline stairs, which have 2 little, like, lines underneath them. But then it looks so horrible. So we ended up switching. Which one has calcite? Calcite. The calcite threw me for a frickin' loop while I was collecting it. Because I needed, like, some odd... like 5-6 sacks? Something like that? Oh. Yeah, the window's gonna get placed wrong. Right. I need... The windows are picky. If you don't place both of them from the same direction, they won't open together. Apparently, I forgot to do that. Right there. I'm just gonna go around and do windows real quick. I feel like that's gonna be far more optimal. I was talking about a thing. What was I talking about? Oh, calcite. I only had so much of it, and I needed way more. And I was exploring the whole frickin' server and making my computer hate me because I turned my chunks up to like 20. Just so I could possibly get the chance. Calcite can naturally spawn in large amounts in specifically, I think it's windswept savannas or some savanna mountains. There are 2 different savanna mountains, I can't remember the name of the other type. But they can spawn in large quantities there, so I'm like, okay, let's go find one, because I'm pretty sure I saw a little chunk spot down by Penguin's base. There's a lot of mobs there. There's no calcite. There's diorite. No calcite. And I explored across all the way up. I had a little bit of acacia from exploring some point or another. I think that was when I was looking for the pillager outposts. I had a little bit of acacia discovered from that. So I was looking through there. Nothing there. There's a bit of windswept savanna. No calcite. And this continued and continued until I went across basically the entire server. Thankfully, while I was doing this, I was also gathering materials I genuinely needed, like the cactus flowers or bamboo. And I ended up all the way out in a jungle past the desert, just hoping I could maybe find a new acacia that way. And I needed spore blossoms. I'm using 2 of them to make some ambiance in my interior garden on the 2nd floor. And I have them hidden in the rafters. And I found a lush cave all the way out there, and in that lush cave, while I'm gathering a little bit of excess spore blossoms in case I need to use them in the future, I will usually try and gather in not a ludicrous excess, but at least some amount of excess if I've miscounted, or I need extra or want extra for whatever reason. And in this giant lush cave where I'm getting these spore blossoms, there's a shit ton of amethyst clusters, which is just about the only other way you could possibly get calcite in large amounts. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a sign. I gave up. I just desecrated a poor amethyst. Give me another stack. There we go. And so somewhere far out in the world is a random amethyst that has just been chunked out by a destructor hammer. And that's all of that. My inventory's full of items. And I need all of them. Okay, I don't need this many stripped logs on me at once. We'll stick with just a stack at a time. That's probably the best way for me to do this entire project anyway. We need... This is where the oak shell... No, oak shelves are the next layer. What can I... I can place the skillet's next layer. What can I place this layer? Pots, candles. Pots and candles. These extra spruce platforms go right here. One of the candles is in here. These... That's the other backpack. These ridiculous candle holders go right here. Where are you? Or panel. Yeah, flower pots and cherry saplings. Oh, I do need... It's you? Yes. Lantern. Does you get placed there? And you get placed there. And then the last one's like at the top floor. I swear there's some... What else did I have in the bathroom? Oh, the single tripwire hook. Right. Because I didn't have the spot to place it in the kitchen, so there's only one. And then the few candles, which must be in the other backpack. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Hot. Sapling. Hot sapling. Hot sapling. Everywhere because cherry blossoms everywhere, something. I'm tempted to use the extra spore blossoms I got to add some ambiance to this area, because I could absolutely hide them in the rafters. I have the perfect spots to do so. Oh, my office! Cherry blossom! Cherry blossom. I need cactus flower. That is not this one, this is the other one. Singular cactus flower. Cactus flowers, I need to make a farm for them or something, because they're perfect for the kind of base I've been building. And they are annoying to get a hold of. Oh, hey, my totem. Apparently I hadn't been holding it this entire time. There. Is that all? No, there's 2 more over there. And then the next layers will definitely not need this stuff. It'll still need the leaves. I'll need cabinets more than anything. Yeah. Head on to the next layer if I actually have... Oh, I need to do windows. I need to do all the windows. I need to grab the fences too. The shoji drawers are annoying because they're sat perfectly in the middle, and not a lot of blocks in Minecraft do that. So usually for doors, in order to like make them taller than they actually are, you just pop down a trapdoor. But you can't do that with these because it doesn't align correctly. However, fences align perfectly. But most of them don't look good, but thankfully Macaw's fences adds a stockade fence, and it looks perfect. It works perfectly with this. So I don't gotta worry. And I can have my slightly taller doors. And boop. So I'll need to grab those in a second, and we're gonna grab, while I'm doing all this, this is the layer that needs the shelves. And then we need a few more of these. And I might as well keep these on me, honestly. Oh, right, because... Can I get away with doing that? Yes. I know you want it to be that. I'm not letting it be that. This is the original design. The shelves crash the material list if I have it in the schematic. They are literally not allowed to be in the schematic. I tried all the roundabouts. They didn't work. Or I tried to find a roundabout. There isn't a roundabout for that. I need to get back up. So I can build up. Oh, right. I don't need calcite anymore because it's a different block now. We need the diorite flagstone. I'll grab 2 just because. And it's sleeping time. Sleep. Sleep. I don't have a free hand. Sleep. Well, we can maybe get the foundation and the first floor done in 2 hours. Probably gonna just title this VOD, How Fast Can I Get This Done? I would have liked it to be 2 hours. That's not what happened. Same thing happened for the, for my second pass of the build, going through and adding decor and such. And the interior, because I did not do the walls of the interior, and that was a problem. It was supposed to take me an hour. It took 3. It took a whopping 3 hours, so I ended up overworking quite a bit that day. I ended up spending 3 hours in the morning doing the second pass of the schematic, which was finishing all the interior and fixing up a little bit of the exterior, which was mostly just adding spruce columns everywhere, so it gave the build a little bit more depth than it originally had. And then I spent 3 hours in the afternoon One, with the schematic, because I had to figure out what in the world was crashing the schematic, and then I had to fix the schematic in order to not have any shelves in it. Thankfully, after figuring out what mod it was actually attached to. It's not called the backport shelves mod. The file is not called backport shelves. So Minecraft goes, what are you talking about? There's no shelves. There's no shelves in Bossing, say. It's called fall drop, which is also was causing my fall drop had also been causing fall drop and filament specifically had been causing me a lot of issues when it comes to flashback. So I've been becoming very acquainted with reading crash logs lately. I was able to immediately go, oh, okay, it's fall drop causing again. It's the shelves. And figured out, okay, fall drop, spruce shelves. You're not allowed. Get out of here. No, thank you. You're crashing my damn game again. And then finally get the schematic done, and then list it all out and collect everything. And spend like a half hour on the stupid calcite when I barely needed any of it. Nope. Place all of that. I'm so happy. Okay, I'm absolutely the cat dad who didn't want the cat. I'm so happy we have the stairs. We have all these mods now. There's a spider in my house. Things you can say in real life and in Minecraft. He's just chilling though. He is just chilling. Okay, that is all of it. Yes. All the walls, all the walls, all the walls. Yes, okay. What in the hell do I drop? Okay, I know what I can drop. I know. We can put these back. And the stairs. And we no longer need the flagstone diorite. Because the next block is pale oak. And then slightly organize blocks and inventory. I no longer need the stockade fence. Stockade fence could go with the doors. I need some of you. I can place the basket as well. I need 3 of you right there. And then the rest of you won't be used until the top floor. That needs to be placed. Baskets. Oh, I do still need stairs. Are you kidding me? Flower pot. Flower pot and blossom. I need the barn trapdoors for a second here. What else? Basket. Skillet. So skillet. Boop. And boop. Boop. Oh, yes. I need stairs. Stairs. Who's stair? So I had a lot of fun with little arches. And there's supposed to be shelves here, but I don't have shelves and I need to add that later, and I don't know if we'll do that on stream or not. I just might. Because honestly, I have so much wood, I just need to run like 6 stacks through the stonecutter. And that should give enough to at least do interiors. I sincerely doubt it'll be enough for exteriors. Because I did plan on doing a spruce trim at the top of my exterior. So we will see on that. And the stairs are just going there. I don't care. And now we need pale oak. Up, up. And grab more of that. Oh, hey, we were talking about 3008 earlier. Now it's playing. That goes back up. Is that all? Yes, that is all for the moment. Now I have enough stairs. If I don't fail. I have enough stairs. I could just use the stairs to get up. Easy place. There we go. And now it's just easy as pie. We can just run through because I don't have to worry about windows until the next floor. Thankfully, I didn't build any furniture much higher than the 4 blocks tall. So it should only be a few cabinets here and there that I need to place, and the cherry leaves. I think most of those cabinets are all the same, and the bamboo is still growing on its own. Which works out just fine for me, I don't have to place it. Because frankly, that'd be freaking annoying. It depends on where it stops growing. Because I attempted to use bamboo for the rice farm as using the bamboo as a clock with an observer. Observer. And it stops at like 12 or 6, between 12 and 16 blocks, I think. Somewhere around there. It's taller than you think, yet shorter than you'd expect. Can I place that on nothing? Nope. You sure? Yeah. I could hope. And that has to be directionally placed. Up, 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 up. Jump over the railing. And then use the damn stairs again, because I need to get up. And fail the jump, despite that. Oh. This is why I love Elytra. It was also, last season, I was gonna make, like, a bunch of mini-games. I don't remember what we were trying to do mini-games for. I can't even remember if I did end up making a mini-game in the end. I want to do a Elytra hop-based mini-game where you had to hop on, like, certain points. And I realized while I was in the Lush Cave, I really could have just used drip leaves. Oh no, I did make a mini-game! I was trying to figure out mini-games for Spawn Town, and I ended up using drip leaves instead for the floor's lava. I shouldn't make that again. I might, like, fully divert my focus to that instead next week. Because I would love to have that back. That'd be great. The floor's lava was so much fun. Boop, boop, and then that, and then bop, bop, bop. Bop, bop. And then a bunch more cabinets, none of which are you. Bop, bop. Those cabinets. Those cabinets. We're just gonna stick with it. Those cabinets. Those. And one more over there. Yes. And then I will need cabinets on the next floor, actually. Apparently I need more of that. You too. Yeah, but. Starts throwing all of this into the other backpack. So it's all just together. I need that for the next layer. But. Yes. And then that, and now this is my junk backpack. And we don't have to worry about it. Oh, we do. I have items I need in here. I still don't know how I ended up with extra of the sandstones, though. That is a question of slight concern. I know I have extra smooth sandstone, but not the rest of them. So that can go up there, and that can go into inventory. I gotta sleep again already. Oh, empty hand. It's because I have something in my offhand. Yes. I just saw the do you have any paper? Yes. I have a sugarcane farm if you go down to my mega base. And take an immediate left. It's at the very end. Very left side. Or very back, I guess. It's hiding behind the cooking pots. I think that's the best way to put it. It's hiding behind my cooking station, my little kitchen. Place. Boop, boop, boop. Place. Oh, I probably need more planks. Boop, boop, boop. That should do. And I'll probably need more you. I've barely used any trim, surprisingly. I don't think I need extra leaves yet, though. Oh, I do need to go around and place the lanterns. I forgot about the lanterns. That is a thing. And I already need to get started on the roof. Hello, cool epic gamer. You truly have a way of words of how you do not run out of things to talk about. I've been here for like an hour now. It's certainly a skill you have to build. I definitely did not start out with this. It certainly helps that I have ADHD, so I just start on a train of thought and I keep following it and I keep following it and I keep following it. That is one of like the few good things about ADHD, because I can ramble and fill the silence for ages. Every now and again I'll take a breath to think about what I want to say next. Which is why I'm mostly stumbling over things, because I'm not stopping to think about the next words and letting my brain consider that is the word I need to say. But yeah, it's something that has been built up. I can't do it for ages. Funny enough, outside of streaming, I don't talk a lot. I'm usually just sitting in silence and basking in it. I just vibe. I save apparently all of my verbal voice for streaming. I just have nervous, quiet ADHD. That's how I am most of the time, but the moment like the ice breaks and I'm like, I can talk? Cool, I can talk! Most of the time, I feel like streaming, I've specifically built like an energy around it. So I definitely... Like before streams, I'm like hyping myself up a little bit. Like, oh my god, I can finally stream. I can finally work on the thing. But sometimes I'm just like, that's right, I need to stream. That was how I was this morning. I talked about it briefly before stream. I start at 9 AM my time. And I started late. We were a half hour late because I got up a half hour late because I'm like, oh, I'm just working today. Wait, I'm streaming. Interestingly, I am the quietest person in the world until I have a record. I have to record a voice note where I try to keep it brief, and all of a sudden, every single damn topic in the world comes up in my head. That's the problem I have. I need to get better at it with voice calls with friends, because I'm like, oh my god, right, I need to tell you this thing. I need to give my friends like a free pass to tell me to shut up, honestly. Because I will get like focused on whatever I'm talking about, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot I need to tell you this thing, or oh my god, right, I'm working on this project, I completely forgot to tell you. And then another time, somehow I still managed to forget to tell them, oh yeah, right, I've been working on this for a month. Too much in head. Too much thought. All of it get lost, but most of it make it out. Where did I put the lanterns? I have like a bunch of wall lanterns. Where do they go? Oh. That is where. Lantern. Lantern. I love these. They're so cool. This is are you kidding? This is Macaw's lights and lamps. And sadly, thankfully I crafted the exact amount, but I did want to double check. Once you change them into a wall lantern, they can't change back. Because the way you make the wall lanterns is you just put the lantern in the crafting table, that's it. And you can turn it into a wall lantern. Trust me, I am not mining for diamonds. He must be mining for lapis. Where are you? Hold on. Where? What? He's gone. That's a race car. Now there's no race car. I see you on my journey map, but I do not see you on the map. He definitely is not mining for diamonds then. The problem is with you, race car, Billy Bob, whichever, same person. I don't know if that means you are mining for diamonds and you're trying to be sneaky about it, or you're absolutely not mining for diamonds and you're just mining for netherite instead. Subtitles said, it must be mining for leftists. Oh, I had a comment. I posted a TikTok yesterday that was like a little quick rant I had a couple videos ago. I just made quick gold farm. I spent like 5 hours on it because of the piglins, but I stuttered over saying not the piglins, so in the recording, it sounds like said hot the piglins. And I didn't even realize this until somebody commented, please tell me you didn't say hot piglins. I'm like, no. No, I did not. I stuttered. It is a problem. It exists. It's gotten a lot better, though. It's S's for some reason. It's the S's. They screw me over. One of my favorite clips to date is a really early clip. It's like the first clip I ever uploaded to TikTok. And it's Baby Mew. It's like 2 usernames ago, which is saying a lot. And I stuttered over the word statistic for a good 5 minutes or so. It was way longer than I should have been stuttering over it. Next layer, we just need blocks. Okay, we need the blocks and stairs. Got it. Good. I have slight regrets for the roof that I decided to design, but it looks amazing, so it's minor regrets. At least easy place mode makes it really easy. If I was doing this without Lightmatica, oh no. I would hate it. This would not work out. I am way past Penguin's base. That would be what- wait. Oh my god! Dude! For context, this is 2,000 blocks out from me. And let me scroll my mouse down. You are almost 20,000. Man. I admire the dedication. The truest commitment to the bit possible. I want to get this stupid house done. It's gonna take so long. I know for a fact this is probably the most complex floor there is. The other floors are easy and more dead space. This one just takes the longest out of them all because it's the largest one. My tongue sometimes just randomly decides some words are not an option, so I have to stutter around like 8 attempts and then just say another adjacent word. I do something similar, but the thing is I pull a word out of my butt that I have no idea what it means that ends up being the absolutely correct word for the occasion, and I'm not sure where I heard of it or how I know the word at all. It just appears out of nowhere. I pull it out of thin air, apparently. I'm in a tunnel that has more than 20k blocks. Jeez, dude. Respect, honestly. This is the richest man on the server. Your next project, to continue procrastinating your base, should just be making a bank. Get rid of that. Just make the wealthiest bank ever. And start handing people loans. I'll stumble over the word statistics 15 times and then just sigh and say numbers and graphs. I think it's helped that I've been doing a lot more talking, and I've been getting used to the talking, and continuing the talking, and proficiently talking. Actually, a book I picked up, I love going to visit the library. This week I actually picked up a tailoring book so I can alter some of my clothes, because I've been enjoying thrifting. The pants I'm wearing right now, I love them, I adore them. They're fantastic, like, nice shade of green, they're really comfy pants. I have short legs, so they hang a little bit off my waist because they're just barely a size up, but they're like 3 inches down past my feet. So if I ever, it's fine around the house, but if I ever go out walking, I have to grab hair ties and tie up the loose end and tuck it into the pants. So I'd love to just sit down and alter these. That is the goal. And then I'd love to alter some of my other clothes so they fit my form better. And I don't have to pay exorbitant amounts in order to do so. Because I could go to a tailor. I'm not paying that. Respect to tailors. I don't have the money for that, though. And there we go. Now the bamboo can't grow anymore. And we don't gotta worry about it. And I already gotta sleep again. Jeez. Oh, yep. Easy place mode, you are amazing, but you suck. This may come as a surprise, but living alone does not help with my whole talking thing. Ah, that's when you just become insane and start talking to yourself constantly. That is when you embrace the insanity and talk to yourself. Honestly, I am in a full house. I live with majority of my family. 2 of my siblings and both of my parents. And we all just... Why is there... Are there pillagers in my base? I saw that. But we all just talk to each other. I think it started because my mom just genuinely does it. And then the rest of us just kind of followed through. Honestly, I might do that. I already kind of do it with voice notes and I have constant dialogue in my head. Yeah. I live with others, but I still talk to myself. Yeah. It is how it is. Embrace the craziness. The method to madness is cranberries. You do not understand the cranberries unless you believe in the cranberries. I don't know why that is a quote that I will forever beat. I'll beat that dead horse, I'll beat that quote and continue to force it, but I don't care. It will forever be the weirdest and most favorite thing I've ever said. Embrace the voices. Yes! You gotta be at least a tiny bit crazy to be creative. I'm gonna be so honest about that one. There we go. Lovely. Nothing happened. Money for the pit! And drink some agua before I forget again. Yeah, all the blocks that I need all of them. Ooh, something I'm really excited for. I'm gonna pull back the curtains on this a little bit. I'm gonna start making some assets, or like things to sell, of course, Minecraft building themed. And one of the things I'm tempted to do in the future, I'm not sure if I will, I already have a plan of what I'm gonna do for this month, but I want to have like 3 different kind of tiers of assets, something that's maybe a little more low effort that people might use more, like starter bases, for example, or like specifically themed bases. And I also want to do more bigger, like proper world things. And I was looking into this. I'm not going to do it this time because it's going to take extra work to do and a little bit extra. Oh, I'm out of trims. It'll take extra effort to do. My favorite game for a long ass time now, it stopped updating like 2 years ago, sadly, is Critter Coast. It is a free merge game, and I absolutely adore the damn thing, and I'm so tempted to go through and nitpick every single thing in order to make a Minecraft map for it. So that'd be so fun. But it's gone through a lot of iterations, so the wiki is outdated. And sadly, because of the way the gameplay works, you can't actually... A function of the gameplay is going to visit islands to help heal and clean up those islands. The entire theme of the game is cleaning up the city you arrived at and the neighboring islands after some sort of disaster happened. The storyline isn't too clear about what it is. It's just like, oh, there's purple slime everywhere. You need to help clean it up. Or you mostly just get roped into helping clean it up, I'm gonna be honest. I think I'm gonna need... restock that, restock trims, and more wood, because we're using that mostly. And going to those islands, you can't go back to them. So in order for me to, like, really get proper research done for all of this, I need to literally go through the entire game again, but I haven't even finished it the first time. Hello. Yeah, that's all of that. Thankfully, a lot of this, it seems like a huge build. I still have, oh, that's a different one. Okay. It seems like a huge build. It's mainly just because there's a lot of empty space across it, actually. There's a huge amount of empty space across this. And it's mainly because of these rafters. I made the floors exceptionally tall. It starts off at 4, and then it has another section to it, so it makes it a little taller than it actually is. But a huge amount of this thing is just dead space. So I think once we finish the second floor, I'd say we have a half hour left of building. And we're already at 2.5 hours, jeez. Oh, I'm out of that. And do I have any in here that I should be using? Yes. Yes, I do. I have a lot that I need to be using. But I'm so tempted to make a Minecraft map for that. Another one I contemplated was making a map for, what's the name of the game? Untitled Goose Game. Because I thought that'd be just really silly. I don't know what the purpose of it would be at all. I just thought it'd be silly. I mean, I guess with the way the map's formatted, laid out, you could do a, like, hide and seek within it. That is an option. What is... Oh, that's the gray terracotta. Okay. Yes, I will grab out gray terracotta in a moment. Still have a bunch of brown I need to use first, though. Lag? Lovely. Lovely lag. We love it. But in the meantime, I have another game that hopefully we're going to be playing soon on stream. That is the goal. I need to figure out a day to do it. And I'm really tempted to take out... usually I wouldn't stream really weekdays, because I try and get work done those days. I'm tempted to stream... this Tuesday. Because I don't want to stream... Monday, which I usually would, and that's usually the day I would do variety games, because it's my dad's birthday. And it's also MLK Day, so I'm just gonna try and spend most of the day hanging out with him. Or at least out of my room and just open to hanging out. What? Oh, I'm out of brown terracotta. That is the limit of only being able to keep a stack of any given thing in your inventory at a time. Let's clean up things. Because there are some things I don't need to be holding right now. I technically don't need stairs right now, but I need them for every floor, so I'm just going to keep them on me. Same thing for windows. Do you like carrots? Actually, yes. Very much so. I'm lucky I didn't... I got raised with a bunch of different foods, and mostly grew up with a garden. The carrots turn out into little abominations, but they are still delicious. So I'm a big fan of most foods. I have very weird... pickiness for food. I do not like bell peppers, and that cuts me off from a lot of food, and I don't like soggy food, I guess is the best word for it. I don't like sauces. I'm not a big fan of sauces. Except for, like, being white as hell and having a bunch of ranch. I'm not a big fan of sauces, so that cuts me off from a lot of Mexican food, unfortunately. And I don't really do curries because of the soggy sauceness of it. But otherwise, I'll eat just about anything. It's just those few things. I like food as it's intended. I don't like heavy sauce. Oh, there you go. It's the weirdest pickiness trait I have. But it's there. Sauces are overrated. Yes! Okay, this is a very heavy take. I will always stand by it. Mashed potatoes, if they are good, do not need gravy. Apparently, I was so passionate about that, it flipped out my VTuber for a moment. If mashed potatoes are good, if they are made very good, you do not need any gravy for it. They are fine by themselves. If they are made properly with actual frickin' spices. They should not need it. They're delicious just as they are. And I will forever stand by that. However, on the complete opposite end, I eat ranch a lot. I will use ranch with most things, even, like, I will always go to ranch for anything. I put ranch in my sandwiches. That sounds weird, but most of my sandwiches end up being, if I'm, like, having it more salad-based, and I'm, like, having a bunch of veggies in it, I will add ranch to my sandwich. Or a nice vinaigrette, whichever. I don't need my food to be wet, and if the food isn't good without the sauce, I can either not eat it, or just drink the sauce, and I'm not gonna drink the sauce. Absolutely. I think also the one other weird, like, food pickiness I have is going back to the I like my food to be as intended. I struggle with foods cooked as different foods. I do not like chicken fried steak. I can't get past it. My brain goes, chicken. No, steak. Chicken? It's a steak. It's chicken. It's a steak. And it just... I'm so stuck and confused in that I can't really enjoy the food. So I can't do that. I just can't. But maybe that comes off of, if you don't like raw meat, you actually like the heat from your oven more than you like the meat take, but I stand by it. Absolutely. I just have an empty block there, apparently. Okay. Apparently I forgot to fix that one. The way I build these, and I've been skipping over them, pretty sure I managed to remove all of it from the schematic, except a few things. Here and there. I actually first build this completely out of wool, and then I'll use brushes to go over and texture this later on. Because it's not even like I started out with the floors as oak. All of this was white wool. I had the floors as white wool, the walls were like gray wool. I think I had the trim for the walls as like cyan or something, or blue. Something like that. And I think the roof was gray or brown. Or I might have been black wool even. What's your take on air fryers? I technically have an air fryer, but I've also technically not used one. We have a, like, toaster oven that has an air fryer setting, but I've never used a proper air fryer. The closest I've used to a proper air fryer is a popcorn air fryer I have. I think it depends on, like, how picky you are about your food, because I use the air fryer function a fair amount for my bagels and such. Trying to place and talk at the same time doesn't work as well as it should. And I know my family doesn't quite like it because it doesn't make their... It tends to burn for them a lot, but I don't mind it too much. Yeah, boop. And now the... Oh my god. The ever so lovely tatami mats. Because all of them have to be directionally placed. There we go. What do you... Oh, it's because I'm crouching. It's because I'm crouching. That would be why. I found out about this when I was building, and I'm like, oh, right, I can't crouch and place them at the same time, and then immediately forgot about it! Thank you, Nightbot. I have an irrational hatred for them. You know what? Fair. They are just kind of everywhere. A lot of, like, if I see, oh, check out this popular healthy recipe, it's always an air fryer. Without fail. Or cottage cheese. I've tried cottage cheese on and off. I don't think I've ever once liked it. I just can't. Boop. And then we crouch. There we go. Perfect. We'll pop this back in here. And next floor. Oh. And I'm gonna grab more of these blocks because I'm gonna need it. Not so much the spruce planks, but logs, concrete, that, yeah, and gray. There we go. That should be all, I think. People love them too much for what it is. I already have an oven. Stop trying to sell me a second oven. That's so fair. I end up using the toaster oven more so when the oven's preoccupied, because there's like 5 of us in this house. And I need to quickly make up something because I didn't prep properly for insert event here. Good news, you can cook apple pie kind of things in an air fryer. You might need to cook it for a bit longer though. There's a apple strudel thing I like making. Oh, thank you. I have sandwich. I'm pretty sure, I'm confident we can get this done in the next half hour, so I'm just gonna have the sandwich sit in front of me. It's a cold sandwich, it's fine. I think it's a cold sandwich. Are you cold sandwich? You're sandwich, you're fine. You can sit. Because I am absolutely confident we can get this done sooner than later. Grab another 2. There's an apple strudel thing I like to make, because it's just a dump apple pie. You, like, slice up all the apples as per normal, and instead of just putting a pie thing under it, you throw it in. I'll usually sprinkle the strudel in between the layers of apple slices, and then you put a little orange juice on top, and you pop it in the oven, and you're done. That's it. If you have a legitimate need for a second oven, that's fair. Yeah. It's also just easier for bagels, especially during the summer when we don't want to heat up as much. So we'll default to the toaster oven if we don't want to heat up the house so much. I just ate 3 carrots. Should I make a sandwich or is that excessive? Make a sandwich. I have good food. 3 carrots aren't a lot of filling things. If you're worried about eating too much, then I'd say eat something that would be filling that you'd like to eat with the carrots. Like, one of my go-tos is, I love doing a kani salad. It's, I'm pretty sure, a Japanese salad that is just basically, like, peeled carrots and, or like, shavings is the better word. Carrot and cucumber shavings in mayo. And I'll usually add some... Let me throw this away. Oh, I need to keep some of that on me. Blocks. I'll do a coney salad with some rice. Actually made a whole long bread sandwich earlier today and left the other half for later, but later might as well be right now. So real. I was about to say sandwich sounds good, and I literally have a sandwich sitting in front of me. This is the backpack I need. There we go. And that doesn't... Oh, that's supposed to be there. There we go. And then I do have that on me, but I need... things. I need you, and pots. Pot. This is a slightly claustrophobic room, but it's what looks best, so we're gonna stick to it. Because technically, the way it's set up, you can't really walk around this chair, but I can't push in the chairs either, because that's Minecraft. So, I'm kind of stuck. Unless I want to push this in one, but then that looks really funky and the table goes to the column, but the room looks funky if it doesn't have the column. So I'm screwed no matter what. I might as well. I need barn trapdoors. And then, which way? You're facing this way. I'm gonna remove the seats, quote unquote, for a second so I can show off this. This is one of my favorite things to do in Minecraft. With stairs and slabs, the way they work, if you do an alternating pattern of 2 slabs, a stair, a slab, a stair again, you make a repeating pattern of 2 blocks in between with 1 notch. And I've been using this a lot more often, but it's great for tables. And then I've also used it, I pause for the flashback, I used it over here for the trim around the villager breeding hall. And it's just a fantastic little design to use. Whoop. It's such a tiny thing, but it does so well. I can't remember how I came across this. I know it wasn't like somebody explicitly said, oh, check out this hack. I stumbled upon it while trying to figure out how to build that style for a house trim or something. My real normal-sized oven is now half a sandwich richer. Hell yeah. Place these back. Oh, I almost fell down there. That's fine. This is fine. And I forgot to place these earlier. But this is probably... The next floor, literally, I've only done the decoration for my bedroom. I left the other bedroom open for Axraelia to come in and decorate how she pleases. So, literally, next floor, all we have to do is, like, place down a few beds and some cabinets. And then we place the roof, and we're done. That's how close we are to being all done with this. And then stairs there, and stairs here. And I don't have the sand on me, but I know where the sand is. Where did the... Oh, the pots are probably in the next floor, huh? In my room. Also, completely unrelated, but I'm getting a new vacuum cleaner soon, and I'm extremely excited about it. Like, 11-year-old on 23rd of December excited. Hell yeah. For some reason, my favorite thing lately is when we change out the sponge. It's like, finally, a new sponge! Especially because sometimes we let them go for a hot minute, so they're just like half held together by a few seams. And I'm so excited every time we finally get to trade them out. That's so much better. Although inverse is the rare occasion that for some reason or another we threw out the last sponge and we didn't realize it was the last sponge. So we're stuck using the... Oh wait, I can super condense this. Hold on. We're gonna throw all of this. And all of this. And I'm pretty sure I can condense down to like 3 backpacks now. Because this should have more than enough room for all this. Yeah. We're gonna do this. Slowly place. And then calcite. trims can go down here. Gray, terracotta, I want a little bit on me. There's the other calcite that I wanted, and other calcite, flagstone, cherry. Okay. So we're almost completely condensed, and it's nighttime. Boop. To be fair, a new sponge or dish brush makes you feel like a rich royal family member. Absolutely. Like the equivalent of finally getting a bathroom remodel. It's like, ooh, new shower. I need this one. Because you have my barn trap doors, and where are my shelves? Shelf. Turn off easy place because it's gonna get upset at me. Ah. Oh, you suck. Oh, does it think it's a... What does it think it is? This better drop it back. This better give me it back. Good. Okay. I've not ranked up to bathroom remodel yet, unfortunately, so I've yet to experience that. We live in an older house. We're talking the original bathroom had green, like a jade, not even a nice jade green, like a lime jade green tub, sink, and toilet. By the time I was old enough to like really be have cognitive memories and experiences, we switched out the toilet. But for the longest time, we had a short, stout, small, green bathtub and sink. I wanted to make, I need 2 more. 2 more shelves. Also, wow, is the shelf recipe ridiculous. That's a crazy color bathroom. Yeah, it's an old house. It's fun. What? There you go. It's a lovely old house. It's old enough that we're sitting on, I think it's a quarter acre or half acre. Something like that. I know my parents have a deal with the neighbor next door that if anybody tries to come up and buy our houses, they have to buy both of the houses together for a higher price. Because we are in a great spot that's really close to a bunch of downtown while still being in a nice, pretty laid-back residential area. Like, we're close enough to downtown that in the middle of the night we get cars rooming through and revving their engines. The kitchen counter here are the same as the last kitchen remodel in like 1990 or something, and the surfaces have this weird flat multicolored noise texture that just makes it impossible to see where it's dirty. Oh yeah, like the gray, yellow, tan, light gray thing, we have that. It's something else. I placed that wrong. There we go. So this one. There we go. So I have to do boop, boop, boop. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm making this easier for myself. Slowly but surely. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. And the reason I'm opening all of them is so it doesn't have a crossed over texture like this, because yeah, it does look the same, except for that. So I open it, so it's actually lined up and looks nice. Up, up, up. Although it does cross over in the block, but that's fine. We don't care about that. It works. Up, up, up. Who in their right mind picked that? I don't know. It's what was popular then. I'm gonna need all of these, but 6. There we go. I'm gonna need the spruce curtain rods in the next layer. I shouldn't need... I don't need the decorated pots for a bit. I will need the flower pots in a minute. And bamboo. Oh, I need to go place all the windows. Beep, boop. 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 I know my parents are slowly trying to get the whole house remodeled. The main big thing next to the kitchen, which is no small feat, because my mom owns a collection of over... I think the last count was over... It was between 300 or 500 pairs of salt and pepper shakers. She has a giant collection of them. And they aren't going anywhere. A lot of them, a fair amount of them now are gifts, but it started out as hand-me-downs from her grandparents. We need calcite for this layer. Oh, nope, I need that on. There we go. That's fine. So, the issue with doing any sort of creature remodel is you have to work around the salt and pepper shakers, or we have to bring all of them down. Which she does do once a year to clean them up and redocument them to make sure, hey, we have all of them, and document any new ones if she missed them. But yeah. And even though it takes like several days for her to do that, and during that time we'll usually like just not use the dinner table at all because it's covered in salt and pepper shakers. And I think this last year she actually had to bring out a second table for it. This got switched around. There we go. That's not the correct order for my inventory. Did I get the corners? No, I missed the corners. The boo-boos are popular today, but I'm not gonna get hairy counters. Oh no. I think probably one of the most random things I've collected, it's not a Labubu. Me and my mod Pumpkin, we just trade sloths. I have like 5 or 6 sloth plushies behind me that I've gotten only from Pumpkin. Because, at some point we gifted each other gift baskets, and we happened to get the exact same gift basket that had a little sloth plush inside. And so we've just continued the theme for some reason. And so now I have a bunch of sloth plushies and such, and I have a sloth item picked out for him. Maybe that's a wild exaggeration of me, but still. Yeah, some of the toys nowadays, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know why. And I always, like, kind of do a double take if I see, like, a Roblox game suddenly has toys. Walk around the store and suddenly I'm seeing Adopt Me cat plush. I'm like, why, though? I get it, but also, why? Maybe it's like just the same thing as like Nintendogs having a plush, but I'll always do a double take, because I'm just like, Rainbow Friends does not need toys. That shouldn't be a game like targeted towards kids anyway. Yeah, boop. Turn that off so I can actually place the damn pots. You are a pot of bamboo. And then I need bamboo here and here. They grow so fast. I don't know why I grabbed any extra. I don't know why I actually planned for that. Flower, stone, stones, different. Flower, different stones, stone. And then there is a cactus flower on the center of the table. I'm still not used to Roblox games having merch, because back in my day, Roblox games were gimmicks. Absolutely. Oh, I forgot I did. Okay, that's what I did over here. I completely forgot. Oh, it is the layer I need to start using more pots, right? I need to place these all around. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, these 3 go up into my room upstairs. Okay, so we're on the final stretches of this now. I won't say we're at a half hour yet, but we are extremely close to it. No more than an hour at this point. Yeah, because at this point, it's just really basic stuff. There's only these cabinets here, and then my room upstairs, and that's the only furniture that's left. I am dead positive of that. I guess, yeah, cherry blossoms. Give cherry blossoms. Oh. I'm struggling to find any Roblox games I want to play right now, so I've been going to others. We played Plants vs. Zombies recently on stream, so I'm really tempted to just grind out. My favorite character in that is the Toxic Pea. I don't have any. I need more. And I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm really tempted to just spend my time grinding that out. But let me refill that as well. And I need to switch out calcite for the flagstone. And then grab those. That should be it. Yep. Something I've been really liking for looking for new Roblox games to play. There is a game on Roblox. It's not a game. It's called Better Discovery. And it is literally just a search filter for Roblox games. You can see their ratings, you can see what the gimmick is, you can search for specific ones. Like, you can look through... they have a bunch of different ways you can organize them. Like, you can see specifically organize how many ratings it has if it's a long-standing game. Because some of the long-standing games that are from really early Roblox that aren't actually that good are still really high rated. And you can also sort out, I want this to be a world builder game that is friendly for people on consoles so my friend can play with me. Or it's more targeted towards adults because I don't want to deal with kids right now. Or I want it to be a kid-friendly game so I can go play with my little sibling. I'm heavy into typing games. I love those kinds of games. I actually found one on Steam recently called the Chef Shift First Course. And it's just order up, but typing. And I love it. You can find typing games, you can find world builders, or like tower defense ones. Something I've been having fun looking through, because for some reason this is a growing genre. Typing in the tags horror and cooking. Because I don't know why this is a growing genre, but it is. It's crazy how elaborate Roblox is now. Even Robux is genuinely having an inflation is kind of funny. Yeah. I had a fun bug the other day, because for the first time in like 4-ish years, I changed up my avatar, so it's like one of those kind of chibi ones now. Because my avatar Roblox is completely different than what I have on here. Do I still have the screenshot of him? If you see this avatar, no, you. If you see this avatar playing games, no, you didn't. I do not, but I did send a screenshot recently. So let me just copy paste that. Scroll up and save that. Where is this? There it is. Save image. He's just a cutie guy. Where's image? Show. He's just a guy. So it's slightly chibi. It's not too different from what my guy used to be. The only thing I really changed was got a model and changed out the horns I have. The model is the most expensive thing. All the clothes that it's wearing are actually just free clothes that you can use for the newer kinds of models. And you can style those surprisingly well for how basic they are. Uh-oh, game broke. My avatar still looks like it's 2013 with that one-man face. Hell yeah. I don't know when I decided my avatar on Roblox was gonna be a goat. He just is. I think it stemmed from one of the first personas I had, even doing, like, streaming, very briefly, I still have this as an OC. What did I... Oh, I used those trapdoors here. Okay. Did I craft those? I did not craft those. We're gonna pretend it's the other type of trapdoor I've been using the entire rest of the time. Which one was that? Barn trapdoor. I can make barn trapdoors easy. Actually, I might even... Oh, whispering would be easier. Actually. Because whispering is just a template. It's not a whole crafting process like the barn is. I should only need 4. And then we come over here. I might need a little bit more than that, but it's fine. Whispering door. Whispering trapdoor. 2. We only need that much. 2 whispering trapdoors. Fantastic. My avatar just has a apple head. That's fair. Oh right, I was gonna say, with the Robux and the inflation thing. Inflammation? The Robux the Robux. Thank you. I've been handed dark chocolate candy. With the Robux inflation thing, when I was buying stuff for that avatar, for some reason the game glitched, and I thought what had happened was it charged me twice. It had an error when I was trying to buy the specific hair, and it said error didn't occur, and I tried it twice, didn't work. So I closed Roblox and I reopened it. I had been charged twice, I had way less money than I should have had, and I still didn't have the item. And I was trying to go through customer service for a good minute there to try and figure out, hey, can I get the Robux back, or can I at the very least get the item? That's all I want. And then in going through this process and looking at my actual transactions, what had actually happened, it was still a bug, but I was not charged twice. In fact, it didn't charge me, technically. It didn't show that previous transactions had charged me, so I had the incorrect amount of Robux showing. Because when I went to add it up, 1, I didn't have the transactions for the hair I wanted in there. 2, I added it up to see would I have had enough money, because that looked like a little bit more than what I would have had enough for. And then I realized, oh, wait. Roblox was silly, just not in the way I expected. So I do not have the hair I wanted. I was gonna get to match with... I completely based this new avatar off the wings I have. I've had the same wings for ages. And they're just like a black and white, probably cheap pair of wings. And I refuse to get rid of them. But I bought new horns for it because of it. Because my previous horns were just like... I kind of had a black and white pair of horns. They weren't quite what I wanted. So I got new horns that were black and white to match the wings. I got... And I got, I think... No, I did change out the goat ears, because I didn't like the previous ones I had. I never even used them, because they just didn't look good. Oop. And then those over there. And I was gonna buy this beautiful little hair that was like a black-white gradient. Is like one of those alt wolf cut hairs, which matches more so what my hair looks like. I wear my hair pretty long. Right now it's a subtle mullet going on. So I have the sides trimmed down more, and I'll usually twist. I have like slightly textured. It's not enough to be like a serious pain in the butt, but it does take a little bit of styling to actually show. If I don't style it, it just looks like straight hair. Or somebody just didn't brush their hair. I need these. Boop, boop, boop. I'll just curl it and twist it around my neck so it looks like basically a 90s mullet. And I wanted that, but I don't have that, and I don't feel like paying another $5 for Robux just to buy a piece of hair. And the hair I have anyway is fine. It's not what I would prefer, but it works. It's the exact same function, it's just a decoration. Do I have the wall lanterns? There they are. Oh, oh, oh. I think we're officially at the half-hour point now. It says 3 hours. This is the longest stream I've done in a hot minute. I've been doing like hour-and-a-half streams. It's definitely not the longest stream I've done by far, but I'm almost tempted to beat out that record. Currently, last I knew, my record for the longest stream I've ever done is 7.5 or 8 hours, and I was playing Subnautica for literally the entire day. With like a brief break for some food. And I only stopped for dinner. I'm still not quite sure what I want to do for stream anniversary, and it's literally in a week. It is the 26th. A little over a week, but you know what I mean. So I know at the very least I want to go back through some of my old worlds. I want to visit the first world again. As well as probably play through some of the original maps I played when I was first starting out. Because I tend to go back through those. Which is a Bedrock map called the Scariest Map Ever. And Terra Swoop Force. I think those are the only maps I really did on streams. So first world that I might still have like old hardcores. I'm not sure of that. Well, I have to check my normal Minecraft because I've been playing Modrinth for so long. I know there are some worlds that I still have that are completely vanilla Minecraft, but I didn't stick with vanilla Java very long. Sandwich, it was good. Nice. I can't wait to tear in the sandwich in front of me. But I want to get this done. We will get this done. It's 12:30, jeez. Wow. I've been streaming since 9 in the morning. This is what I do with my day. And after this, I'm immediately gonna go into editing. After I eat my food. After food. Is it this one? Yes, yes. Wait. I should drink water, that's a good idea. Editing is fun. Yes. Especially when you have tools to make it way faster. I've been using Filmora for a long time. Sadly, they've been going heavy into AI, but I have a lifetime subscription for it. That is to say, I've paid for it once. I paid about 60 or 70 bucks, and I never have to pay for it again. And this is like the first time I've upgraded it. I upgraded it last year. I had been on Filmora 11 for the longest time, and when I upgraded it, Filmora had gone up to like version 14 or 15. I think they're still on 14, actually. But it does have a feature in it called silence detection. So it can go through the entire recording and it cuts out all the silences for me. Is it this one? Yes. Which is fantastic. Adore it. So usually, streams, I will more heavily use silence detection. Depending on how or what I've been recording. When it comes to shenanigans, I can usually fairly accurately remember, oh yeah, this section I wanted to cut because it was really funny. Or I wanted to use because it was really funny, it had this moment in it. So streams, I'll usually go through and skim the entire thing. And go through and be like, okay, I want this part, this part, this part, and this part. And that's all. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. And boop, boop, boop. I love inventory management. It's so much fun. And that's it for this layer, so next layer. And I'm trying to race against the bamboo at this point. But thankfully, these walls are basically the only thing that's left. And a few pieces of furniture in my room, and we're done. I actually probably need to go back down. Oh no, we're not at that point yet. Okay. I have spore blossoms hiding in the rafters of this room. Oh wait, I need trim. Trim. I have spore blossoms hiding in the rafters of this room for the particle effects. It just makes this place, this tiny little room, so much more magical. Brown terracotta. There we go. Perfect. It's almost done. I can't wait. And we've just been looking top down. I haven't given you guys a proper view of the place yet. So once it's done, we'll take a nice step back and see it all. Can't wait till it's done and I can eat and I can edit. And it'll all be ready. Post tomorrow. And again, there will be no stream tomorrow, but hopefully there will be video if I have time. I doubt today, but I might spend part of tomorrow editing and finishing up the golf around video, so there'll hopefully be 2 videos. That is the plan. And I also need to plan what in the world I'm doing next week, so that's another one. Oh, no. Spruce wood. Actually, is there enough? Oh, there is. Okay, hold on. We go up. Probably drag these down here. Blip. And up. Perfect. And then take a little bit more of that. Of course it's raining. And I'm spending way too much time organizing this when I don't need to, but it's fine. Up. Up. And then take that back. And now I can drop another backpack out. Another backpack. So now we're just down to the 2. The decor and the blocks. Whoa. Yeah. Put that back on. It's almost there. So 2 hours, no. Almost double the time, yes. Could not be done in 2 hours. Could be done in 3.5. Hopefully. I got 20 minutes to make that correct, or make that true. And then there's one more railing on this side to be placed. Then I need to grab the platforms. This backpack. I don't know which one I picked, honestly. This one? There we go. Up. And up. And that's all for this floor. And the bamboo's already outgrown it. I never placed the string! This was supposed to have string. Okay. Can I hide? We're not high enough that I can hide the spore blossoms yet. Okay. Then next floor, I need the few pieces of floor left. And more of the roof. There's the spore blossom. I don't know if... I doubt it will let me place it midair. We can try. But I have doubts about that, so I'm gonna have to go back in probably to place it. Okay, ran out of that. Which gives me a slot to attempt. Will it? No. That's what I thought. Brown All the browns, yes. It looks so funky now that I'm placing it layer by layer, but I promise you it looks good when it's all done. I promise you. It's just a little silly getting started. I'm so glad I didn't fill in the in-between and I left the rafters open. 1, because it's more accurate. 2, it saves on resources. Saves on so many resources. And the more I can save on resources, the better. I'm still trying to... my mind went back to what I'm doing next week, so I'm thinking, oh, saving resources, which was like a major focus for the Nether Hub for me. I haven't made any more progress on it because I've been working on all this. What does it want? Oh, facing the other way. Facing this way now? Yeah. Did I do that properly down here? Yes, I did. Okay. Okay. There we go. And then that one... Nope. Nope. I have all of these placed so weirdly. And it's so much fun! Okay, and then I have the few blocks that are here. Those are not how they're supposed to go. And then we have the tatami blocks to place. Right, these aren't... They're not planks, they're stairs. They need to be placed correctly, and nobody's ever gonna see this detail, but I don't care. Because it makes it look cool when you do see the detail. And then the few blocks that are left. And those few blocks. I did not place those over there. Boop, boop, boop. And then tatami. Boop. And I need to remember not to crouch, even though I really want to. It doesn't help Light Matica's being annoying. But this is literally it. This room has a few cabinets. My room has cabinets, a bed, and a little table. And that's it. We're done. It'll be done. Almost. I can't wait to tell Axe, hey, guess what? Log on the server. We have a new house. I've been leaning much more towards aesthetic houses and then really functional bases elsewhere for some reason. Although I guess my base last season was a healthy mix. Let me go sleep real quick. Yep, there we go. I love that I just randomly... Like, I don't take my time with these. I get them done as soon as I frickin' can. I burn through these projects. Because this was designed 2 days ago. Oh, I'm out of that. I need you. Or you. And you. Probably you. And then we also have the top roof to do. I guarantee we can get this done in the next 15 minutes. This needs to be done. We'll fill in the roof and then do decor. I've had this pause the entire time. I've had that pause for a long time. That sucks. Absolutely lovely. I love when I do that to myself. It's so great when that happens. Brown terracotta. That's almost done. I probably had that pause since, like, the beginning of the second floor, I'm pretty sure. Because I ran over to show off the table, and then I completely forgot. That'll happen. That'll happen. It'll happen. can place the spore blossoms, though. I probably need to step down a block to do it, but... we're out of blocks. Something. No? No? What? Brown turk? Did I... is that the only block I didn't refill? Yes. Yes, it is. What? Oh, you are... this. And then fill... and that. And that is all of that. Now we can go downstairs and add the spores. And... look at the ceiling. Will you let me? Yes! Good, 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 good. Good, 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 good. Let me place spore block. Thank you. It just adds the tiny bit of particle. Yeah, see, it looks gorgeous once the particles start working. We're gonna ignore light mat. Hold on, we can ignore light matica. Look, it's beautiful. It's great. That is why I needed the spore blossoms. I might move them to this back corner instead because they're causing particles over here and I don't need them to. But I'm tempted to add particles down there anyway, so maybe it's worth it. Just keeping them where they are. I do need the calcite. This is the last of it. Oh, right, I was gonna do the decor, but it's probably best I do this anyway. Oh no, I'm blind. For some reason I thought there weren't blocks there when there are. So happy. It's almost done. Nope. Come on. We're literally in the final minutes of this. The top roof is so easy, please. It's just a tiny wee thing. I have like one more frame. Oh, how did I miss that like entire section? How did I manage that one? Oop. Yep. That got misplaced at some point. That's not supposed to be that block. I will fix it later. I'm gonna have to grab these blocks out anyway, though. No! No! Not those, these. This is the thing. Apparently my brain goes out the window for any conversation the moment I see the end of my goal. Because this is all I have to do. Okay, random blocks that I have in my inventory that I do not need. Let's put some of the pale oak back. Oh, I have extra calcite. I can actually run over here and switch this out for what it's supposed to be. Because there is not... I'm not using that much calcite for the rest of this. I need to get this spot to this little wall. And then we'll do the quick little details in my room. Put the roof blocks back for a moment. That's taking up too much room when it really shouldn't. Boop, boop. My bed? Oh, I need shelves right there. I didn't make shelves right there. These go like so. And then I can grab down all of these cabinets at this point, because we're going to use every single one. That is not what I needed to do at all. Apparently I don't have that on. Up, 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 up. 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 Candle. Up. Candle. And then I also need the doors. And I'll grab the stockades as well. 1, 2, 3. Open, open, open. Lie! And 1, 2, 3. That is not how you're placed. 2, 3. Open, open, open. And then pot, cherry leaves, pot. I don't know why I have an extra pot. I have an extra pot. Oh, I do. There's a shelf up above that has the other pot. I put these in the wrong backpack. I still don't know what the other tatami mats were for then. You got... Oh, the pot's right there. Boop. Boop. Up. Okay, that's basically all the decor. There's just a few shelves I have placed around, and that is it. Boop, boop, boop. And then I did those there, so I'll grab those out. Stockades. Place all those. And then that's where these go. Place all that. Run over here. Run back for a second so I can place that. Up. It's almost there. We get this. I feel like I'm missing cabinets. I feel like there should be cabinets above these, but I don't have it. Oh no, I do have more. Never mind. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to local crazy streamer. It is fine. I just did not occur to me my inventory. Need to get over here for these. Up. It's so close. Almost. Just a few more layers. I need to grab. You're no longer needed. You are needed now. Calcite is not needed for a minute. Maybe I did need that singular piece of calcite. I might have to run down for that. I only have a lid. Oh, there is more terracotta. Brown terracotta, concrete, bent concrete. Brown terracotta, that's the thing I'm missing from my inventory. It shouldn't need much more of anything else. I will need a rundown for that singular piece of calcite, though. Because it's used for the bottom portion of the roof, and it's 5 blocks long on both sides. So I am missing 1 block. I'm just gonna go do that real quick. I'm not gonna mind it. Not gonna mind it at all. I better not die. I don't want to jinx that. Okay. And we grab singular piece of calcite. And 1 more. Up. And single piece. Next layer. It's almost there. 7 minutes. Can I get it done in 3.5 hours? I certainly hope so. It's just a matter of how fast can I flick my mouse around the screen to place everything. That is literally the only thing holding me back at this point, because I have just about everything sitting in my inventory. And at this point, everything is easy place. There's nothing complicated. I hold my tongue because there are lanterns. There's nothing too complicated to place. That sounds like a cat has been delivered to my room. Is there a cat? Nope. I guess he didn't want in. It's almost there, though. Oh, no, there is. He's next to me. He just completely went past me. He must have been on the other side of my eye. I looked over one side of my chair. He must have went by the other. Cat, you do not need in there. You do not need it in the baskets. I changed up my closet the other day. I have like one of those like 3x3 cube shelves with all its little cube drawers. And I moved one of them, I have two of them total. I moved one of them into my closet to use for my clothes, and for some reason Dusty, my cat, is just absolutely infatuated with it, and I couldn't tell you why. Because there is, like, no... The closet does have, like, a bunch of shelves, so there is other stuff in there that you wouldn't normally be able to get to, so maybe he's trying to find a way to get up to that. It's my only guesstimation. I don't need that much, but I do need a little bit more of that. And brown concrete is going to be the first one to be used up, so I'm going to try and keep most of that on me. We do have another bit of trim to do after this, another frame. That's going to be off-center to everything else in order to sit the top roof correctly. And, oh, there is a tiny bit of detail I did do to hold up the roof. So there are some slightly annoying stairs to place. But I firmly believe... 4 minutes. Can I do it in 4 minutes? I don't have spruce. Cat, don't flash maybe. Don't flashbang. Okay, sun's moved enough. In the morning, my desk is at the perfect spot where if the curtain gets opened, I just absolutely get hit right in the eye with the power of the sun. And for some reason, Dusty loves, on these mornings, to, like, just gently paw open the curtain and blind me. But thankfully, I've been at this for so long that the sun has moved, and that is not currently a problem. Yeah, it's literally these stairs, and I don't think I think everything else after this is only blocks. There's not a single non-solid block. The only thing stopping me is myself. My clumsiness. Okay. Just these stupid things. Up, up, up. Nope. Only clumsiness holding me back. Come on. I can do it! If I don't fail to land... Oh, these are just logs. Perfect, perfect. Oop. Can I reach? Yes. Log. It's just a log. Stair. That log over there placed incorrectly. Fix log. Log. Okay. Hold the rest of this in inventory. None of that is needed right now, I'm pretty sure. We'll find out. I still don't know where that dark oak came from. I don't know. I was looking at it in my material list, like, why do I have 6 dark oak? I guess I'm gathering it. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know what in the world in this build required 6 dark oak. But it's there. Oh, I know. On my schematic, the copy of the world I have saved, somebody pranked me and changed up my stairs, so they were all upside down. And they placed dark oak blocks underneath them. So it picked up the stairs from below, because I had to move the schematic a little bit down to catch the bottom of the foundation. So it just picked up my fucked up my messed up stairs. It just picked up the messed up stairs. That's it. Mystery solved. It was a prank. I got double pranked. Okay. Okay. Literally, this is it. I have 30 seconds. It's impossible to do, but we'll round it. That's fine. That's okay. It's technically not correct. It's not 3.5 hours, but it's within twice the original time. So that's fine. This is fine. And I never did the path down to my base. So honestly, I think we can just wrap up by doing that and actually do that part, because I didn't. Because I didn't know what time I would have. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. And one more block left in my inventory of pale oak, and for some reason the flagstone diorite. The last blocks! Like 30 seconds to a minute over the original time. There we go, that's it! Ignoring the path. And with a bunch of other random blocks that I didn't quite need. So that is empty. I don't know where the extra great terracotta came from, honestly. I knew for a fact I'd have over the amount of cherry blossoms that I would need. Because the schematic picked up some of the cherry trees around my base. Hey, there we go. Okay. Okay. Okay, I need to pick up this backpack, because this also has some of the random junk. And throw it in with the rest. I do know where these go to, though. These are for this area. So I will quickly do this. And then I'm calling it. Because this is a longer stream than I've done in a hot minute. And it was not intended in the slightest. You're gonna be that. And now I have to carefully read the very top right-hand side of the screen to see what in the world the game wants me to do. Stone slabs. Are you supposed to be stone slabs? Yes. You probably are too, yeah. I'm probably running on so low. I'm barely scarfed down some cereal before the stream. This is fine though. And now it's pretty easy from here. We just path all the dirt blocks. If it says it's still wrong, then we change the path to cobblestone. So you're cobblestone. And you're cobblestone. You two are cobblestone. Cobblestone. Oh, that needs to be a block beard. Block. And you're supposed to be grass. Grass. Cobble. Bunch. This, you're supposed to be dirt, but we're gonna ignore that and just let it be grass. And then cobble. Paths. Or not paths, slabs. Path. Path. Ah! I love and hate things at times. Are you supposed to be cobble? Y'all supposed to be cobble. And we're gonna ignore like half of this. I just want to get this done at this point. It's not gonna make much of a difference if what it is or what it isn't, as long as it's a functioning path. Move, remove, change. Cannot place in easy mode. It's a piece of... Oh, because it's my offhand. Is it because it's my offhand, Minecraft? There we go. So that's the dirt one. And now I can put my bed back up in my inventory. And turn that back to grass. And we are officially done. With a few extras here and there. But we're gonna unload the schematic. I am gonna go quickly after the stream, probably add in the shelves, because I really want to do that. But it's done. And now you guys can actually see what the outside looks like. Because it has been slightly changed from my first pass of it. There we go. Just a little more depth with the spruce columns. And it looks fantastic. I love it. Oh. There we go. Well, you know what? That'll do. That works. Perfect. It looks great. And I love it. It's done. And I'm just ending stream. We're just gonna end the stream. Yep. We're just gonna end stream. I'm gonna eat food. It's late. I usually eat like 2 hours ago. That's why I wanted to get this done in an hour. Or in 2 hours so I could go have my lunch.